Okay, no sound. Susan. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us for our monthly Mental Health Matters chance to look at how pandemics impact our society. Maybe we can get into some discussion on our impact on our communities, our culture, and even the socio-political aspect. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today. Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Staying home has just got a whole lot easier. Cayman Spirits has now launched a new delivery service, offering free home delivery of hand sanitizers and face masks. When COVID-19 struck Cayman, Cayman Spirits answered the call, repurposing their facilities to produce hand sanitizer during the island-wide shortage. Now that service is coming to your front door. Search for the Rum Runners in the App Store or visit rumrunners.ky to place your order of hand sanitizer and face mask. Free delivery with purchase of $50 or more. Rumrunners.ky by Cayman Spirits. Hashtag stay home, Cayman.
This is JJ the Iceman. This is JJ the Iceman.
This is where the ride begins. A magical musical journey.
Weeknights on Radio Cayman, 8 to 10.
Music
on
Express.
Friday nights, 8 to midnight.
Music Express.
Brought to you by the Anti-Money Laundering Unit. Join the fight and learn more about financial crimes. Visit the Anti-Money Laundering website at amlu.gov.ky.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Stay at home. Stay home. No get about it. Stay your backside home. On a got it now? If on a want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Is it the Monday gremlins in the system? Well, let me start by saying thanks again, as I was trying earlier to say. A special thanks to Miss Susan for putting up with us and making it all work and so graciously accepting all the added hassles and headaches that we have been putting on our table in the last few weeks as we do this thing remotely. So I said it earlier, but I didn't hear it, so I'll say it again. Thank you, Miss Susan. And for our monthly Mental Health Matters show, the wonderful opportunity to join Dr. Alexandra Warden for facilitating our monthly discussions. And this time around, we're looking at the opportunity of, the social and psychological, perhaps even the socio-political impact on our communities and our culture when we think of pandemics and the like. Dr. Warden, good afternoon to you. Thanks so much, for everything you've been doing for us. Hello, Dr. Warden.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. I can definitely hear myself, so.
Well, we're starting. As I was just sharing, I can only imagine the extra work and trouble would be the word I would use to be give Miss Susan for having to balance all of this. So, she's a good camera who has adjusted well to SBS, so she'll be okay.
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you.
No, I definitely appreciate the work that's gone into the show. I know it's harder to do everything remotely, but definitely appreciate you guys allowing us, to still have the show, but also to be able to do it safely with the social distancing in mind. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, yes, and thank you too for helping us. Because these discussions at this time, I think, is important. And when we look at it from the perspective of the various impact, people will talk about the impact on health and the impact on economics, but sometimes we don't see the impact on the individual, nor on the community, nor on the culture. So as we take a different perspective from time to time, it may be mindful to appreciate that not only are we in this together, but it's going to be a time of change and adjustment. And it's a time to sort of persevere, but also attempt to preserve some of those values that are and norms that are important to us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Things like this always impact the culture. And we've done a lot of talking recently about how it affects individuals, which is obviously a big part. But what I think is interesting as well is looking at how it will shape our culture and our people and our history, and our future going forward.
Indeed. Well, equally, this month we had a chance not only with Dr. Borden, but we also have Dr. Sandra Samuels join us and Dr. Livingston Smith. Dr. Samuels, first to you, a special good afternoon. Trust and pray all is well.
Good afternoon, yes. All's well. I'm thankful, and thanks for having me. I think this discussion is going to be timely, seeing that so many individuals are wondering what next and how best we can cope with all the challenges that we're now faced with. So thank you.
You're most welcome. And, I like how you put it, we're faced with Dr. Smith. I believe sometimes we'll sit and appreciate that, being at the front of the class, engaging the students in their minds, and other times just putting pen to paper, as we like to do it, and have others read our pencil thoughts. And this is a time that we can impact as well as influence. So good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. It's quite a different way of getting the word out. I'm really delighted to be part of the conversation, even though I'm keeping my social distance.
That is something that maybe in and of itself, and I think as for some of us, as not only casual observers of human behavior, but as practitioners like yourself, either lecturing in the classrooms, seeing your clients, but as Dr. Borden, you were just sharing, events like this impact societies in such a profound way. I have looked, just quickly through some of the examples of history and how people have responded. The way we build certain things, the way we may no longer do certain things. And even though this is early days, the comparisons between this and the Spanish flu are evident. But then to have some people share, but wait a minute, not that long ago we had, little things that we remember, SARS and MERS and H1N1, and wondering why, it is that is causing us to have responded globally at this time compared to what happened not even a decade ago. So perhaps Dr. Warden, to you first. How do you, well, let me ask you to set the stage for us with this whole discussion and the impact on our community and on our culture.
Yeah, I really think it's looking at how are we going to build resilience from this, right? What are things that we can look at from past experiences? There's, although nothing to this scale, because the world has never really been this big. We've never had this many people. We've never had this much money and infrastructure. We've never had anything this size before. But there are past experiences that we can look to draw on globally from past health pandemics, but also even culturally, even within Cayman, looking at past experiences through things like natural disasters that we've been through. Although natural disasters are not the same, there's many similarities in going through them and recovering from them that we can look to as well. So even though I always hear it quoted that these are unprecedented times, which is true, there are things that we can look to in the past that draw from to get ideas and strength to help us move forward as we work to continue to rebuild and move forward as a nation.
Dr. Smith, I mean, as Dr. Barton shared, unprecedented times. We keep hearing that. We keep hearing other things that, on one hand, it could be the political pundits, it could be those who are trying to position themselves to be of even greater value and importance and somehow are playing their role. And then there are those who just regurgitating because, well, you know, there's not even sufficient air between their ears, to inflate a balloon, but that's for another day. So is this unprecedented times? I mean, what is your take on this whole thing?
Dwayne, I must confess, I'm not hearing you as clearly, but I definitely agree with Dr. Barton. The kinds of lessons that we can learn from these experiences are, I mean, one of which, of course, is the human ability to be resilient. I was interested, Dwayne, to look at what is easily Cayman's most tragic event. And I know you know what it is. It was what happened on Monday, November 7th, 1932. It grieves me, really, to even refer to what happened, not so much in Grand Cayman, but certainly what happened on the BRAC.
Mm-hmm.
The utter disaster, I mean, I don't even want to go to the statistics, what happened in the BRAC. But even though it happened in the BRAC, it really pained the entire society.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I read the literature on the, not just the experience, the tragedy of it, but in particular as to what it drew out of Cayman, what it drew out of people, the best qualities of people, even in this tremendous disaster. How people forgot their differences, how they came together to work together to overcome the disaster, and how they found tremendous consolation in community cooperation, and how the political leadership at the time, I mean, say for example, you refer to a Cardinal, Alan Cardinal, who took over around the time. And if you place the 32 hurricane in the context of the then Great Depression,
Mm-hmm.
then you can just imagine the calamity that occurred, and so on. So we can learn a lot from using these historical markers
Mm-hmm.
as to what we can do as human beings, and much of that, of course, has to do with our resilience, but also has to do clearly with governance and human behavior, and finding the best in ourselves as we go forward.
Indeed. Dr. Samuels, you wish to weigh in?
Yes, I am in agreement with my colleagues in terms of where we are as a people, and it's going to take much more than personal agency for us to be able to come out on the other side and to be able to reflect on the experiences and, learn from these lessons. So I do believe that this is a time when we will learn the strengths that we did not know that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we will also learn new lessons also. So although we are reflecting and we are looking at how others have coped in the past, we are also learning as we go along individually as well as a community and society on a whole. Best practices to survive, as it were. So it has to be a constant interplay for us in terms of our survival or coping and basically sustainability so that at the end of the day we can come out on the other side and thrive. That's important.
Hmm. You talk about the resolve and the resilience in people, and as
Yeah.
Dr. Smith referenced earlier, the 32, storm, the we can go recent, to Loma or to Ivan, and we've seen a sort of character amongst our people that are here trying to get back to move on. Is it then that one, because we had something tangible, something happened, we could see the impact of it, buildings were affected, the physical and environmental landscapes were impacted, and we could quantify to some extent. But now we have this unseen sort of thing that is there or it's not there. Does that make it different in a sense? And A, how we respond, and B, what potential impact it could have?
I would say it does because the uncertainty of not, seeing something that's tangible, so to speak. That so what you find is that the past is
Yeah, put space mic
one
down.
one of the unknown, as it were, because we've never seen this before, we've never dealt with it. So what you find is that we are basically learning, as it were, in action. So as
Hmm.
we go from day to day, although we are drawing on what is known and best practices, that advices that we are given, you find that there also has to be that experiential component
Uh,
where as we experience, then as a people we have to come together and decide how will we survive this and how will we come out on the other side, because that's important. It's not so we are thinking about the formation of it where we are organizing ourselves, and we have done that, but now we are maintaining, as it were, so that there is a level of sustainability, because at the end of the day the transformation, and believe me, all of us will be changed by this, hopefully for the better.
uh,
But the experiential component is also important in the process as well.
so before I go to Dr. Borton, if I may,
Yes.
Dr. Samuels, perhaps ask you, and then respectfully, but I'll leave it to you to gauge the response. You just shared that change that we're going to experience, personally, and hopefully will come out as a better, as I understand. From your perspective, I mean, the trained intellect that you have and the experiences. I recall interviewing you, and we're sitting side by side in the studio. Now we're
Yes.
remote, and we're not physically seeing each other. Have to be more attentive so that we can hear and sort of pick up on all the other cues that are going on. Are there particular things that you, if you wish to share, that you may have experienced in your own growth and development, your own self, that you said, hey, this is something I'm conscious of, good, bad, or indifferent, as a result of what we've experienced in the last, 2 months, 3 months?
Yes, first and foremost, I would say that there has to be self awareness.
Mm-hmm.
We have to identify the strengths, and we somehow also identify the weaknesses as we go along.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just to stop there. We also have to practice self-regulation, because
Ah,
it simply means then that when the awareness comes, we have to regulate. So we have to
okay.
decide how best will we cope with this. So there has to be that intrapersonal, where we're
Mm,
looking at what's happening on the inside emotionally and all of that. We have to look at our belief systems and how they will shift, because many of us live our lives with a myth of certainty.
mm-hmm.
We feel like life will go on as we know it. And obviously, that is no longer the case. So, what you find for many individuals is like this carpet is pulled from under you, and your safety net that you had in place is now compromised in many ways.
Hmm.
And for many reasons, then there has to be this self-assessment. There also has to be that um, efficacy belief. And this is where we say that we have gone through things before. We have survived. So we're going to draw on that strength, those practices that help us to survive in the past. I remember in 2004 we had Hurricane Ivan. Not that it's comparable, but we were challenged in many ways in staying indoors and not having the resources. Thankfully, this time, although we are indoors, we do have the basic resources. But
Okay, well,
it also means that we have to be able to adapt, as it were. So adaptability is important as we
yes,
change. As we change.
being able to adapt and adopt new things. Now, Dr. Borden, bring you into the discourse here. That change, that thing that we're seeing, if, as Dr. Samuels was sharing, we're not trying to say that the experience of Ivan or any other natural disaster is what we're experiencing now. But Ivan, for instance, we didn't have some of our physical needs, so to speak. We didn't have the comforts and the conveniences that we were accustomed to. Now we may have those, but is it different and worse in some sense now? We beautiful sunshine and a clear day, but you can't go outside. You may have money, but you fear whether you'd have, food to buy just because of what you see in the media and your concerns. You may be concerned about employment, even though you have the health to do it, or you may be concerned of being compromised in your health if you go out to do the things that you would ordinarily do. Then you're being told, well, you can't do this. So there's a lot of things that seem to contradict, perhaps in a sense.
Yes.
Dr.
Well,
Borden?
and I think that that's probably where people are seeing this as actually more difficult. In the past, there's a hurricane only lasts for so long, right? The aftermath is different because the aftermath you're not spreading. Right now, I think you guys, I don't know if it's Dr. Simon or Dr. Smith talked about, the virus, you can't see it. And it's counterintuitive to stay home to look after each other. So it is different in that way, in that a lot of times, like after Ivan, everyone came together to work to overcome difficulties. 32 storm, I was not there, but I know the stories, especially like the people on the bluff and how they pulled together. It's always been a great unifier. And I think that that's what's different this time is that and I think that's where it's a blessing that we do have technology. After a person goes through a traumatic experience, there's something we call post-traumatic growth. And so as a nation, we tend to see similar trends to what we see in individuals, which is that this can really be an opportunity to come together and to unite. And so I think that it's social media has allowed us to embrace those parts that come, the good, quote unquote, I really just can't see my air quotation marks, the good parts that can come
I
from
could hear
this
them.
are perfect, thanks, are going to be, how it will allow us to come together as a people. We've seen this, and we saw this in Cayman after Ivan, after the 32 storm. We saw this in America after Katrina, in America after 9/11. I've been reading about man-made things after things like the terrorist acts, the bombings, after natural disasters. So when things happen, people often will come together and unite, and through creativity and innovation, we'll have new ways of doing things. I think one of my favorite things to come out of this is if you Google Cayman Kind, which is what we've always been promoting, which I think is really important now, especially as tensions raise with the continued restrictions and everyone kind of getting some cabin fever. But the new one that I've been seeing, the new hashtag is Cayman Strong, which I really like. And so Cayman Kind brings up pictures of our people and the beaches and the unique things about Cayman. But Cayman Strong brings up all the initiatives that we've done as a country to bring ourselves together through all of this.
All right.
And so I really appreciate that.
Well, when we come back from the break, we'll welcome, Ms. Shannon Seymour into our discussion. It is our monthly mental health matters, building resilience as a nation, taking lessons and strength from disasters and pandemics to build a better future. And perhaps we can talk about some of the things that we were looking at and how this whole exercise that we're experiencing is impacting us individually, our communities, and our culture. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Join us every evening at 6:59 p.m. for the Time Check Salute in Cayman-kind style
With the blowing of the conch shell.
as the Cayman Islands community extends their appreciation to all of the frontline staff who are working to keep our islands safe and functioning during these challenging times.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Social distancing. Well, that means you're to keep a distance of 3 to 6 feet away from the person next to you. Or in layman's term, if you can see the color of the eye next to you, you're too close. Honor got it now? If Honor want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It is our monthly mental health matters as we continue to, what do they say? No longer social distance, but physical distancing now. More than words. Well, it is our monthly mental health matters, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Alexandra Borden for putting it together. And this time around, we're looking at the whole impact on our culture, on our communities, on our society, perhaps the socio-psychological impact, the socio-political impact. So joining Dr. Alexandra Borden is Dr. Livingston Smith, Dr. Sandra Samuels from UCCI, and Ms. Shannon Seymour. Hey, Ms. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. And to all of our listeners, I think they're cognizant that as professionals, you guys have, your daily lives, your clients, and everything else going on. And thank you for making time to share with us. As you're sort of now reading on our discussion, your initial take on how this, not just the pandemic, but as I call it, this experience that we're now sort of going through, how it's going to affect us as a community, our culture. Any thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts. I've been giving it a lot of thought. Just in general, as a social scientist, I'm always interested in sort of the connection between what happens within our society and how individuals respond, how it affects our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. That's the study of psychology, right? And so certainly not a sociologist like some of our other members on the call, but I think of this as a highly impactful event. I want to believe that as a resilient people that I know the Cayman Islands are, that we will come through this and we'll reflect back and we'll see, like Lexi talked about, that growth. We'll see how we have persevered and taken care of each other. I do believe that we will be able to reflect back and see those things, because that's how the Caymanian people have always, I think, come together. I've been here 30 years, and in that time have lived through things like Hurricane Gilbert and Hurricane Ivan, and have seen the community come together and support one another. I do think there are some profound differences in a pandemic, and I'm obviously new to this. It's my first pandemic. So what I'm seeing as different is that, and I think Lexi made the point, unlike maybe Ivan, where once we were safe and the threat was over, we all emerged from our homes and immediately moved and gravitated to one another. We went and checked on each other. We took turns tarping houses and caring for one another. And that's very different. There's something very odd about being asked to stay away from people as an act of caring for people. And it's one that it's taking some time to wrap our head around. It doesn't feel normal. I think that's been a challenge for many people. It's kind of, and what I'm sensing even too is, unlike other disasters where there's this immediate coming together, is there's almost a sense of, I think it was Dr. Smith who said this, where we look at others as potentially having the virus, right? And so with a natural disaster like Ivan or Gilbert or Paloma, we can collectively see that storm as the source of our destruction, as the source of our loss, whereas now we're seeing this pandemic and we see it in each other. And that's very different from a psychological perspective than this external event that comes at us. We carry this within us. We can pass this and inflict this on one another. And I don't know what the long-term repercussions of that will be as a society. I want to believe that we will come through it with a sense of, community and connection and caring for vulnerable persons. But I do think it adds an extra layer that needs to be considered, reflected on, and acknowledged. Because I even sense that you're in the grocery store, and I saw a really good friend I hadn't seen since this whole situation started, and you could tell we both really wanted to be close, but we both also really took steps backwards. And it's this really weird sort of push and pull of what is our sort of natural wiring of connection, of community. And I think that is an interest. I don't know what the outcome of that will be, but I simply think that is something interesting that those of us in this field of psychology and sociology and anthropology, I suppose, need to be paying attention to in terms of what role does that play in how we come through this. I have no doubt Cayman will come through this. It is a hardy, we're a hardy people, and there's a great sense of community. And I love the Cayman Strong. That's Lynn Biles, who's sort of been leading that, and I've been following it and tagging it and getting a great deal of strength from it myself. And I think we are strong, and I think that how we get through this, I think there's some really interesting research to be done. But I think that it's definitely different than other disasters that we've experienced before because of the psychological difference, because of the difference in way we are looking and treating one another. So I do think it's going to be one that we continue to monitor and learn from and study. But I definitely think as a society and as a world, it's going to become that marker. We often talk about things before Ivan and after Ivan, and I think now globally we will talk about before the pandemic and after the pandemic. It will without a doubt be one of those historic markers in time. I think it will be a social and a cultural marker in time as the Caymanian people and families. It will be a marker in time for families, like, what was happening with your family before and after. So I think the impact is going to be profound. I'm optimistic that it will be positive once we have a chance to get through it and can reflect back on it. And what exactly we learn, I think, is fascinating. I think it's yet to be seen.
Indeed. Now, Dr. Borden, with that in mind, whether it's in the classrooms of psychology, sociology, economics, whether it's political science, whether it's public health, or teaching and learning modalities are probably going to be impacted by this. But as Ms. Shannon was sharing, even us as individuals interacting with friends and family socially. So, some of your continuing thoughts, Dr. Borden?
Well, I do think there's a lot of good that is coming out of this. So UCCI, so Dr. Samuels and Dr. Smith will be able to tell you UCCI has actually moved completely online at this stage. So, and I know like us, even like Ms. Shannon and I, our practices are all online now. So it is encouraging local businesses and schools and institutions to take steps in advancing technology, which will allow us to continue to be able to connect with people who maybe aren't able to access these kinds of services, even once we are through this. What I do think is interesting, that stood out to me when I was doing some research earlier, was, as Ms. Shannon pointed out, some of the differences between pandemics and natural disasters is that a lot of the, even the things like 9/11 are what we consider a traumatic event. But technically, right now, unless you're front lines, this really doesn't meet criteria for a trauma, which I thought was interesting in some of the studies that I was reading. But in psychology, we do differentiate between a trauma, which is a single incident trauma, although I would argue that even the part afterwards, the subsequent events, would make it into more of a longer term trauma. But this is one that I think is going to stay with us. It's part of the environment now. And so it will be interesting to see how people adjust and make sense of this as we move forward.
Yeah. Is that then one of the, I don't want to say challenges, but I'll deliberately use that word now. We are prone to assign labels to things. We're talking about frontline workers. Now, it's probably more of the fallacy in the media than anything else, but and then essential workers and the like. Dr. Samuels, perhaps to you first. This notion and this need for us to label and put boxes and circles around things and assign labels and descriptors to so much. Any potential challenges going forward that may cause some of us in terms of how we, value or place some people in position?
I am definitely hoping so, because as a people, we love to put things in category, and I think that's how we quickly make sense of our world. And with these categories come our varied scripts as to how things are and how they operate. What I do feel, however, is that there will be a major paradigm shift, I'm predicting, where for at least for a while, there will be some value added in terms of some contributions that are made. I am expecting that, there will be changes in terms of how we even adapt to our environment moving forward, and how we add value and the cost that is involved in terms of what we do. So culture is dynamic and it's constantly changing. The walls are porous. We have to remember that, and the experiences that we have as we go along, individually as well as collectively, will shape how we move forward. And I think this is a good time for us to self-assess in terms of our belief system, and also how we categorize really, and how we add importance to varied roles that are carried out. That may be the shift that we really need in terms of empathy and compassion for others, and also looking at the fact that we have to do this collectively if we're going to survive. And even with the categories that we so love, we have to move beyond that and maybe look at the broader issues in terms of just being human and what it means to interact with others. How will we express empathy? How will we show compassion as we go along? And hopefully build our resilience also as a people. That's my belief. But definitely I'm expecting that there would be some shift in terms of how we categorize. I'm hoping that we will not just revert to the past, but we will take these lessons and help them to shape the future also.
Okay, well, I certainly, when we're looking at this whole perspective, maybe as you shared, that empathy and compassion, that sense of respect for others, that notion that it is not just about money and position and power and prestige, but it's about sense of humanity and human behavior. When we come back from the news break, could we look at some of the other potential impacts that this may have, the positive as well as the negative? Could we ask about the potential impact on liberties, on some of the things that we may have taken for granted? And a question, if I could ask, are there things that we are at risk of losing that we don't even realize as yet? All right, let's pause and take a break. When we come back, more talk today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The team at the Central Caribbean Marine Institute has been busy at the Little Cayman Research Center. Fish surveys have been conducted at Martha's Site, Icon, and Crystal Palace for their dome coral outplanting project in advance of outplanting of the domes. This allows CCMI to get a baseline of information about the sites, which will allow scientists to track changes in the fish population and see what impact the domes have on the biodiversity and fish population densities over time. CCMI has been deemed essential per Cayman Islands Public Health Regulation 2020, allowing critical staff to conduct marine research on Little Cayman. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. An intermediate host animal passed the coronavirus from wild bats to humans, evidence suggests. But while the World Health Organization says that the research points to the virus's natural origin, some scientists say it might never be known how the person first got infected. It remains unclear whether this host animal was sold in the now infamous Wuhan wildlife market in China. And scientists have discovered a microbe that completely protects mosquitoes from being infected with malaria. The team in Kenya and the UK say the finding has enormous potential to control the disease. Malaria is spread by the bite of infected mosquitoes, so protecting them could in turn protect people. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
With no vaccine, with no cure, our current solution is keeping our distance and staying at home. We stay at home to keep safe, to reduce harm to others. We stay apart while out and about, space between life and death. We keep our distance 6 feet apart because 6 feet apart is better than 6 feet below. We stay at home because it takes upwards of 40 nurses, doctors, laboratory technicians, housekeepers to care for one COVID-19 patient. Diagnosis, intubation, extubation to full recovery. 40 healthcare professionals and their families at risk while taking care of one COVID-19 patient. Breathe easy. Keep your distance. Stay home. Don't risk you. Don't risk others. This is Rotary Central saying, live to breathe, breathe to live, because breathing is everything.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments. Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, seaboard.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Just a quick note, at 1:30, Miss Elaine Harris from the Jamaican Consulate will join us briefly. And so looking forward to having another great chat with Miss Elaine. But now it is our monthly Mental Health Matters. And online we have Dr. Alexandra Borden. We also have the good company of Dr. Sandra Samuels and Miss Shannon Seymour as we're looking at the impact of pandemics on our society, on our culture, and the like. So thank you all very much again for sharing with us and for helping us to facilitate this. As they say, long distance. Maybe not that far away, but sometimes it seems like too far away. We were asking just prior to the break some of the things we're looking at. Maybe we could um, talk to that, but first let's just go to the phones and join this caller. All right. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon to you, Sterling Green. Good afternoon to your illustrious, highly qualified panel there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I just like to caution us people on comparing, particularly the 1932. I didn't hear them mention the 44 hurricane, but that was also calamity, but it was mostly at sea with the 44. Of course, the 32 hurricane was a tremendous sad disaster because we lost men at sea also, the Carmania, the Melpomene, and mounted to some nearly 30 men. They were lost in those two vessels, Carmania 20-something, Melpomene 6. And that was a vessel my father built in 1926, 56 foot yawl. Sold it to his friend, Captain James Ryan, in 1930, I think it was. But there were generational Caymanians then, and our life was the sea. Cayman Brac was devastated. Devastated. There's no other word for it but that. Massive devastation, loss of life. I think it was over 100 on Brac itself. And then we lost 2 in Grand Cayman. That was in Prospect. And the island was hit here with tremendous winds and flooding. And but it was generational Caymanians. That was our life. The sea and storms was something we knew could happen. We didn't want anything like that to happen, but it was something we knew could happen. And we had lost men at sea before that also, as we know. Check up on our history. That was our life, the sea, the main life. And not that we expected or wanted it, but it was a different makeup of society. Generational Caymanians by far. With Ivan and with those hurricanes, our borders weren't closed, so we would expect help to come in, and it did, and we can't even accept the help now if it comes in. But now we're in a very different, even if it relates to the mental part of it, as I presume you're all focusing on mainly, aspects of that, and of course the physical rebuilding, so forth, of different things. But the buildings are there, the food is there, the water, electricity is there, but we now have a makeup of a majority population of not generational Caymanians, and we're focused on a different type of life now, economy. So there is a big difference in trying to compare those things. Besides the borders being closed and we can't accept help, this thing is, and so forth, the help that we could get or whatever. And we can still get the food, we can still get the fuel, and et cetera, and parts necessary to repair certain things, keep them going. And we're shut down, so most people are out of work anyhow. But it's a different makeup of people. How we come out of this and comparing it to the other disasters, which were hurricanes, that is sort of a new thing for us. As I said, the makeup of the island are no longer generational Caymanians in the majority, as it was in those times by far, and a different outlook, a different economy, and so forth. So I would caution us as to how we compare those things. This is a pandemic, something like the 1918 terrible flu, but of course a different day, much better health care, much better knowledge of science and so forth. And at the time, the First World War hadn't really ended yet, at a different time. And there was the need for people to be out there fighting a war, but and then getting things back together after the destruction of the war. So it was a different thing to compare it, and a tremendously bad time. We have much better medicine, we have much better protection, we have much better knowledge, if even some of it vastly gained from that also, that's fantasy. But I just caution us to comparing these things and letting people fall into that idea of comparing the things, especially that one, which a lot of people will remember. It's only 16 years ago, come this September. So, but again, the different circumstances, different people, a different makeup of people from the 32 hurricane, the 44, and to that. So,
yes, sir.
That's the one that I try to compare it to, but it was disastrous. But as I said, this is a different thing. How we come out of this is Winston Churchill way. We have to get out there and fight it. We're not going to conquer everything by just staying shut up indoors. That won't happen. It won't work. This is a war.
Yes, sir.
Victory, total victory comes by getting out there and fighting it. I'll just shut up and listen to what you all have to say. Thank you very much. I'll listen on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I mean, if I could just add, I just think that what that gentleman has said is so important. Because it is very different. And also what I'm hearing, or what I'm thinking about as he was speaking, is that, and maybe the sociologist can guide me, but it sounds like in order to understand how a society is affected by something, we really need to have a clear understanding of how the society is functioning at the time of that event. And I think that is something that we've been grappling with in Cayman for many, in the short history, or the last couple of years, is the rapidly changing society that is now the Cayman Islands. And we've talked many times on your show about the implications of that related to psychology or to mental health. And I think the caller highlights such an important thing, is that to really understand how the society is going to be impacted, we need to have a firm starting ground of what is our society right now. And that in itself has been something that has kind of been rapidly changing and evolving almost so quickly that we can't quite get our hands on it. In terms of what does it mean to be Caymanian? When somebody says Cayman, what comes to your mind? What is the society or the culture of Cayman? And so I just think that was just an amazing comment that gentleman made, in terms of really helping me to realize to really know what's going to be the outcome, or to be able to study effectively the impact of this event on our society. We need to first have a real clear foundational understanding of what is our society right now. And that's been something that's been changing so rapidly. I don't know that we have that.
Yeah. Dr. Boyd, Dr. Samuels?
Yeah, if I may add as well, I think he made a good point with that the landscape is changing so much. And so when there is these major country impacting events, global impacting events, there's society enters the state that we call anomie, where it's a state of normlessness where society has to reestablish norms within it. So the ways that we interact with people, the ways that we raise our families, the ways that we do day-to-day interactions in business. And so that is something that always can cause a lot of upset but it can also create a time to create a lot of change as well. I believe I read about 8,000 people leaving the islands a few weeks ago. When we all come out of lockdown, Cayman is going to look a lot different than it did before. I think one thing that we can take from past experiences is that it takes a long time to recover from these things, and we are going to continue to feel the effects later on. So there's often the initial first impact, which is what we're in right now. But then as we come out, things will begin to settle in and take root, and we'll begin to understand, just what kind of impact this will have had.
But is that then one of the challenges then, and Dr. Samuels, maybe to you, this notion that, look at the words we're using, right? The government, let's just use the government's part in its information. Words like we're releasing another 6,000 people, almost as if you're releasing them into the wild. Come today with, we're lifting the restrictions, we're in lockdown. The things that we are saying, are they just more than words, and are they so powerful that they're going to change our psyche, our mental capacity, even affect us in a way that we are probably not going to appreciate, like so many things, until way down the road?
Well, with every change that we experience, one can decide. There is a selection process also, so we can exercise what we call agentic approaches, where we can decide as a people individually, how will I select from this? Will I focus on all that's negative, or will I focus on the positive? We can look at the people also, that the diversity that we have experienced over time has given us a breadth of knowledge, as it were, and other ways of doing things, diverse ways of doing things. That also is a plus, in that we can share, how we have survived the varied experiences, while they might not be totally comparable. There is also the environmental adaptation that will come with it. Many of us have taken a hug for granted. You greet someone with a handshake. That is going to be a challenge as we move forward. For some of us, we also think about the cost involved also. Will I probably shake hands with someone and end up being sick tomorrow? Or, so what you find is that there is going to be an individual selection as we move forward. But I'm hoping that we can at least focus also on the positive, and not just those negative, the restrictions or the external constraints, or even internal constraints that we may put on ourselves as a people. And that we can move beyond those boundaries or barriers to be able to, restructure, as it were, or thinking, and modify those things that I think many of us have existed with the mentality of us versus them. How can we move away from that, where we collectively look at each other and say, hey, we are all in this. We're having these experiences regardless of geographical location or origin. This is an experience that we're all going through. And if we're going to survive, then we have to think as a people, how do we bounce back? And that's what resilience is all about. How do we face these challenges, maintain what is good, look at building our self-efficacy. We have done things in the past that have these things have kept us going, and we have been able to thrive despite the experiences. And I think that should be the focus. What do we take from this? So we have to be selective moving forward in terms of the lessons learned. And we also have to look at the importance for environmental adaptation. And of course, there are going to be some changes in terms of how we interact with each other. And but we have to remember that there is also reciprocity. So it's a give and take, as it were, as we move forward. And this is going to help to shape who we become. So with all the experiences, we can have two outcomes. Some people can succumb to it and decide, I can't go on, this is it for me. Others can say, despite this, let me look at the positives. Because for me, I tend to look at this as two sides of the same coin, where it's a blessing and it's a curse. And if we focus on the curse, then what we find is that moving forward, then we are selecting all the negativity from it. But if we look at the blessings that we've been able to spend time with family, we have the resources, we still have a roof over our head, we have running water, electricity, and the whole works. And although we have experienced natural disasters, we can see this either as a threat for existence as a people or a challenge that we have to overcome and survive. And I would want to think that the approach of challenge would be a better way of looking at it. So yes, we have this, it's here, and there's no denial. How are we going to cope with this, and how will we come through?
Right. But as I listen to you, and before we go to the call, maybe I'll just ask this. We were talking earlier about potentially, are we at risk of losing some of the things that we didn't even realize, we could be losing? You mentioned the agentic state, but, from the product, from the perspective that we are impacted by the social systems around us, from the notion that, we're expected at times to be obedient subjects to, this commanding authority. After this caller, could I maybe ask us to consider how that could be affecting us from a social as well as a psychological perspective? But first, let's just take this call. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. I
Afternoon,
didn't
sir.
hear what Mr. Hurston was referring to, but apparently it was some comparison between what we're going through now and what would be what we want to call it, a general hurricane scenario. And I think I'd like to reinforce what he said. I hope that those who are guiding us does not really put too much credence in comparing the two, because they are all together different. Here, in this kind of environment, I think we have a little luxury of having time to think. In a hurricane situation, there's not really a lot of time to think whenever you get into what would be the emergency phase of a hurricane. And I think Mickey was right in cautioning that the comparison of those two things. When we get out of this situation that we're in, it's going to be a big change. And I think there ought to be an educational process in the works now to acclimate those who are still here, because there are people leaving all the time, those who are still here, to what some of those changes could be. Mickey made reference to the society's makeup of when you look back to let's say, well, he went back to the 32 hurricane or the 44. There were 2 or 3 in the early 50s and the 60s, and in 87, I guess, and then Ivan in 2004. And we got to be careful how we do that comparison. And I think decisions have to be made in those realms of what we think it's going to be like, because it is going to be changed. And I think we all have to be prepared to be able to adapt to the changes. And yes, hurricane season is merely 3.5 weeks away, 3 weeks away. And there has to be some preparation for that.
Yes.
With all the technology we got, I see a lot of things happening in the society as far as hurricane preparedness that I, I almost shudder when I see it. I see in cases of antenna towers being overloaded. Now, in a hurricane season, that in a hurricane, that is especially very could be very detrimental because we're now dependent so much on technology, where before the barometer, which all this weather stuff starts with the barometer, that was the technology we had 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So that's my kind of take for the day. But
Yes,
I
sir.
think that there has to be a lot of preparation for what you want to call it on the other side of this pandemic, because there's going to have to be changes mentally, physically, and right down the line, socially.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you for sharing, and with the callers, always insightful commentary. Anyone wishes to jump in first? Dr. Samuels, Ms. Shannon.
Yeah, I disagree with what the caller's saying.
Okay, Ms. Shannon. Yes.
No, I was just going to say, I think that, it's great to be able to have this discussion and to have a format where we can sort of even just begin to think about this. For many of us right now, we're in it and we're living day by day and we're responding to every new announcement. And it's myself personally as a business owner, as a parent, it's easy to get kind of just focused in on the day-to-day living through this and coping with this. And I just think this is such a healthy conversation as a community to start to, we don't have to have all the answers, but to even just start to
Ask questions.
verbalize some of the questions, to really start to think about this, I think it's such a healthy exercise.
Yeah. If I then may ask, and I appreciate that because I think that's where, as the caller shared, now we have time and time to think, not just to do, but to think. From the thought processes, we may be able to come up with very effective, inclusive answers that would be beneficial for as many as possible. So then, if I could ask this in light of that, the whole notion that, and I go back to Dr. Sanders' sentiments, she would use the word agentic, right? And as I understand that word, and looking at it from, again, I defer to you guys as a sociologist and psychologist, but whether we're looking at it from sociology, psychology, or even, economics from the perspective of being subjected to authority and being in that state where we're seeing the impacts of social systems. Two questions evident. First, are we globally, but certainly in the Cayman context, at risk of being subjected to this incredible human experiment that we have now, where if we're not mindful, the political authorities and the like could be subjecting the citizens to, controls over movements and freedoms and liberties and dictation and the like. And then secondly, subservient, submissive people who, under the guise of civility, compliance, and the like, want to conform, want to ensure that they are law abiding, may inadvertently become so conditioned that they no longer start to think but become, again, in a political sense, sheep being laid to slaughter. Dr. Samuels?
Well, that's a good point there. But when I think about human agency, I'm not just thinking of it in terms of the individual agentic approach, but I'm also looking at what is happening by proxy, where we have others operating on our behalf so as to bring benefits, or as you might say, sheep to the slaughter as well. And also collectively, how we decide as a people what we will run with and what we will reject.
Right.
So I think that if we look at it as operating, yes, in the agentic individual sense, where finally we will have to make some decisions for ourselves. We're not just being led as lambs to the slaughter, as you mentioned. So there also has to be the respect for authority. But while we're doing that, we have to be researchers as well. And we're thankful for technology that we can also be able to do personal researches, and we can also challenge where it's possible, maybe outcomes, so that we can say, hey, yes, this has been done there and this is considered best practice, but how can we move forward with intentionality? You know, what forethought should we put into this, where we're planning and we're setting goals that would be contextual? Because although we're looking at this in a global sense that, yes, others are experiencing, but our context matter. So what thoughts will we have then in terms of planning as a people? We also have to look at what we will take from it, the social structures that are in place, how we might have to modify so as to ensure that we come out strong. So I don't think there is any one response, but it simply means that at the end of the day, whatever the responses are going to be, they have to end up being collective, so that we are moving forward in a way that we can build on what we have and sustain those good things, rather than, having those conflicts that might be unnecessary as we come out on the other side.
Indeed. And then taking what you shared, the caller's perspective of thinking, and then if Miss Shannon will let me throw in, her sort of suggestion that we ask questions, we start to think and we analyze and the like. A few things maybe we'll leave on the table and revisit, for future discussions. The notion that if we look at, say, Taiwan, for instance, geographically where it's located, but the significant success that it is experiencing, the lauded approach of its political leadership in terms of communicating with its people, the responsiveness of its populace in taking this seriously and doing, the right thing. Could I ask these questions sort of in winding up our discussion? One of our listeners, chipped in and shared that perhaps the best comparison for this corona pandemic is the 1918, Spanish flu, and was asking us, if there are any studies, have we done any studies? Have we, what have we learned? What's different? What are some of the changes? What are some of the things we forgot since then? I think this comes back to what we were sharing of the thinking and asking and the like. So as we consider those questions, as we look at what we've transpired, perhaps Ms. Shannon, your sort of winding up thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's been a fantastic conversation, and I think what comes to mind is just recalling a family Zoom meeting that I had a couple of weeks ago with my immediate family, siblings and children who are in Canada, the US, the UK, and Eastern Europe, and then us here. And it was really interesting because we were sort of sharing what our local governments were doing, what the local feeling of the average person was, and how we personally were feeling about those actions. And there really was a great deal of variety and diversity. And I think to your point, like different social constructs, different countries with different histories have different perceptions and different ways of response to this kind of very authoritarian decision to close economies and close schools and prohibit transportation and travel and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that, we've been very focused obviously on the mental health and the psychology piece of it, but this, I think, just helps me to really realize the sociological or the societal aspect of it as well as can't be left out when we're having conversations about how is this impacting us from a mental health perspective. We have to incorporate what is happening socially and how does this affect us as a society.
Indeed. Well, I'm hoping that this will be another one of many, many conversations, not just here, but certainly this platform is all that's available. Before I ask Dr. Borden for her final thoughts, perhaps Dr. Samuels, any quick thoughts you may want to leave with us?
Well, what I would say is that while we might feel that we're victims, as it were, seeing that, we're fighting this intangible thing, which can make us so ill, and many have lost their lives, we also need to focus on the fact that we are also producers, as it were, not just products of what is happening. So I would say that we should build individual resilience. That's where it starts, and then we can extend that to our communities, our neighborhoods. We can extend it to society on a whole. We should be flexible because with change, flexibility is required. We should try not to be rigid. I would say focus on the positives as you go along. Take care of yourselves holistically. Every domain or dimension is important for development, and we cannot ignore any one domain as we go along. So take care of the physical, the cognitive, the social, economic, spiritual. All of that is important as we maintain, as it were, to remain sustainable, so that at the end of the day, when we come out, we will be stronger for this, and we can look back, and then, having had all the experiences, we can look at best practices. What can we take from this? Be selective in terms of how we move forward, what lessons we have learned, and how can we move stronger as a people as we face the future. I think that's important.
Yes, well, appreciate it very much. And Dr. Borden.
Yes. I actually have two articles that I'll share. So I'll put the information up on drbodden.com, which actually looks back at past pandemics, which I thought was really interesting, which shows where we learned, the impact of something like the introduction of an unknown virus to a community that's completely naive to it. The importance of wearing masks. It goes as far back as the Black Death and a plague from 250 AD. But then looks at the different, the first influenza pandemic in 1580, which is where we got the word influenza, up through cholera, the more recent flu pandemics, and the HIV pandemic as well, which of course is something that's still going on, which I think is interesting, which looks at the introduction of social distancing, the introduction of the culture of wearing face masks, and what a role that played in SARS. So I think that that's really interesting to look at that, and I think it does some validation to what we've been through. I think it's always important to look at things that we've been able to overcome in the past. And I will say I do have an article as well that looks at lessons we can take from past disasters, which looks not only at pandemics, including SARS, but even at 9/11, at the past depression, which I think is really interesting, which does advocate for asocial distancing for things from SARS, which we're now calling the physical distancing, but also the importance of decisive and quick government intervention, which I think is what we've seen here. But I do agree that has to be, adapted to each country and each person. So I think that it's really interesting to look back at it. I think that it's always important to learn from the past what we can. And I think knowing that the globe, and especially our country, has been through so much before, gives me the faith and the strength and the courage to keep going. But I also echo Ms. Shannon's and Dr. Samuel's plea too, that it's important that we each play our part coming out of this. The good part is that this is creating change, right? In therapy, we always look to create something called dissonance, which is where it creates this kind of ambivalence of, well, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, and we begin to question the way things were, the way we've always done things. So that is kind of the gift that's coming out of this, is that we're going to create our new normal. I've seen lots of memes saying that, we need to decide what part of normal we want to go back to. And that is the big blessing and the big gift, is to figure out how we want our society to look. But I do think it is important that each of us plays our part to think about what's important and to have a voice. And luckily in Cayman we're able to. And that's what I think will prevent from us moving into a full dictatorship. I do think that decisive and quick government intervention was important, but I also think coming out of this, it is going to be important for the people to have a role in saying what's important to us, which it starts with self-reflection, as Dr. Samuel said, but then us coming together as a country to decide how we want to go forward as well.
All right. Well, thank you all very much, and looking forward to continue discussion. And as you shared, hopefully people will continue to think and act responsibly, be responsible and respectful in our endeavors. So thanks very much. And to our listeners, Miss Elaine Harris, the Honorary Vice Consul, has been gracious with her time, holding on. I'm going to join her for a few minutes after the break. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Essential staff, police officers, immigration, customs, doctors, nurses, first responders, they are essential staff. So if you got to ask, then you ain't. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Radio Cayman News.
Optimism pretty high early in the week.
If there is no COVID-19 on Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, we may be able to relax the restrictions earlier.
The policy guidance stipulates that school leaders should report education provision to the ministry.
The job is very demanding, so even if you're off, you're still monitoring what is going on at work.
Radio Cayman, your official source for Cayman's COVID-19 response. Hear it here first.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today. It can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
It's time to stay steady in the summer and be ready for the fall. Summer 2020 classes begin on May 11th, and there has never been a more opportune time for you to invest in your future with online classes at UCCI. Do your part to keep our island safe and stay home Cayman while furthering your educational goals. Continue or start your success story today by visiting ucci.edu.ky/myucci to find out more about the enrollment process. Call 623-8224 or email info@ucci.edu.ky to learn more.
The RCIPS, National Drug Council, and Radio Cayman are reminding you to stay home, refrain from social gatherings, and having parties during soft and hard curfew. Do your part, limit alcohol consumption, or stay sober. Do not undermine your immune system and health by misusing alcohol or any other substance. Remember, we are all in this together. Stay safe, stay home, stay alive, Cayman.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Essential staff, police officers, immigration, customs, doctors, nurses, first responders, they are essential staff. So if you got to ask, then you ain't. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today. It can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, and a very special Monday afternoon welcome to Miss Elaine Harris, the Honorary Vice Consul over at the Jamaican Consulate. Miss Elaine, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks, and good afternoon to your listening audience. Thank you very much for this topic.
It's an honor, ma'am. It's an honor to have you, and I hope that, for the public don't mind, you are such a wonderful spirit, so patient and so accommodating. So thank you for hanging on with us and, being so willing to share, at least in particular with the Jamaican community, some of the things that are developing. So very much grateful to offer this platform to help you to get your message out.
Thank you very much. As you know, this whole COVID situation is somewhat fluid with the various governments in the decisions that are being made, and the Jamaican government has now implemented the online application process that will allow for the controlled re-entry of their nationals. The borders, of course, are still closed, but without the online travel authorization application being completed, persons really would not have the opportunity to re-enter whilst the borders are being closed. So this is just an opportunity to share how persons can access the forms, and also to mention a little bit about our services for persons who may have difficulty, because we know there are some persons who may have a little issue with regards to the online application, which will also require them to upload their biometric page from their passports. And we're happy to assist in some of these cases. But the government, of course, is considering the re-entry, and the process that they are going to be utilizing will, most of those questions that will be required will be in the whole body of the application. It will require a person's personal information, which is, their date of birth and their address and so on, and also it will require some other critical information later on in the form with regards to their agreement to be quarantined upon arrival there as well. So the form, once persons go in, will take them through a number of questions, and in some cases require their agreement to the mandated process upon arrival, and and once that is submitted, then it will generate, a response, and then there will be a second tier to that process, where persons then will be asked, about their some health-related questions, and that would be a sort of second tier to the application form. These health-related questions will be done sort of as a last minute before they are then given the authorization to enter. So it's a bit of a process, but unfortunately it has to be completed to allow the government then to make their decisions. So I thank you for the opportunity to share with persons that the website for persons to go on. It's a bit long, so bear with me, please. It's JAM COVID, which is JAM COVID-19.moh for the Ministry of Health .gov.jm, and then /immigration.html. And if persons, we will be putting that information also on the Jamaican Consulate website and our social media page, and we'll also thanking yourself and other media houses for, disseminating it for us as well. And, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I got a call from a service manager from one of the companies here, and he indicated that they're going to be working with their staff to help complete the form and to pay whatever necessary fees that might be, incurred. Which I think it's such an amazing gesture. We certainly appreciate that. Of course, I have to at this point just say a big thank you to the Cayman Islands government. I know it has not been easy. The Premier and the Minister of Health and Dr. Lee and others that have been doing their daily briefings, which I know is coming up shortly. It's a difficult time for everybody, but providing information for persons to be able to be aware of what's happening, and the opportunity also, I guess, for questions and answers certainly helped persons on their, once they know what is happening, it kind of helps them to manage some of the anxiety. And we know a lot of persons now are feeling great unease. And it's easy to feel overwhelmed from all of these anxieties. So we encourage persons just to, practice empathy during this time, not just for themselves, but for others. It's important, and, I guess I'm glad that the government has also allowed for a mental health helpline for persons, who wish to talk through a few things. And, of course, it helps, too, when you can reach out to family and friends during this time. But we know that there are a lot of Jamaicans that are anxious to go home. And trust me, it would be, certainly if it was within our power to have them home already, we would. But we have to go through the process. We understand the Jamaican government do have challenges on their hands as well, because, of course, they have thousands of Jamaican nationals overseas trying to get in, and they have to manage not only the re-entry, but they also have to manage how they quarantine the facilities and so on whilst in Jamaica, whilst dealing with their outbreak there. So it's very difficult. I know that's part of the reason why this process has been a bit slow. But we also have an emergency contact number for our Jamaican consulate here, which is 547-4826. Our office is actually not operating with the regular hours as we had before the COVID outbreak. So we encourage persons to contact us via our emergency contact number, as we would sometimes schedule an appointment basis in dealing with customers. And we're happy to, assist persons in areas that we can, whether with regards to forms. We also have passports for individuals who have applied for their passport renewals through our office, as well as their citizenship. And, we're happy to make arrangements for those to be collected, because we know there are people who wish to use their passports to apply for their pension as well. So just wanted the general public to know that we're here. We're trying to assist in whatever way we can, and also to encourage each and every one who is seeking to return to Jamaica during this border closure to complete the form online, which is absolutely necessary. There are step processes with that, and we assume that once these authorizations are given prior to travel, persons might be required also to have a health certificate. But, that's something, as I said, the situation is fluid, and as these information are presented to us, we will try to share them as quickly and as, disseminate it as broadly as we can.
Right. Now, as you were sharing, Ms. Aline, right now the only way to complete this information is to do so online. So they go to the website, they fill out the information, or they can make an appointment, call the emergency line and make an appointment, and one of your staff would be able to assist where necessary.
Because just to walk you through the application form briefly, once persons go on this web link, they will be required to have an email address, and once they input their email address, it will then generate a password, and with that password, then it allow them access into the form. And as I said, the form then will the information requested will be personal information, date of birth, address, and in Jamaica as well. And this is particularly important as the Jamaican government has found where persons have come in and they weren't able to locate them, and they've found out that they're trying to, with the tracing, it is essential for them to know where persons are. So now they're sort of implementing a lot of details in the form, which helps them to manage the persons that are coming in, to know where they are located and so on. So the reason for their traveling overseas also for their re-entry into Jamaica will be required because they have to manage the most severe cases. There are some persons who might be situations that might be more dire than others. So I think part of that is to ensure that, if they have so many that they can allow in at certain time, that they will give priority to those whose situations are more severe. Because as you know, we have Jamaicans that are stranded on a cruise ship now for months. So these are some of the things that they're looking at. The form will also require persons, as I said, to provide an agreement to be mandatory quarantined, and also agree to be tested if necessary for COVID, and their acceptance, for making their own travel arrangements to re-enter the country. So that's some of the questions that will be asked on the form, and then once it's submitted, it will be generated again another phase to the form, which will require them to provide some more health information just prior to travel. So once authorization is given for travel, so it's a kind of two-tier process, but pretty straightforward otherwise. And we know that because it requires persons to upload their biometric page, and persons who may not have the facility to do that, we're happy to assist them in that regard.
Yes, and as you shared, the companies here that are able to assist their employees in this endeavor, and as you mentioned, many want to be able to return to be of value to their families. I know I had 4 individuals call who said, they can always return here when things pick up again, but they want to get back to their families to be able to help, when they get home. So this is an initiative that I think as you shared, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And, whilst we are aware of the challenges that persons are facing, we all are facing, encourage them to try to remain calm. It certainly helps the blood pressure, if nothing else, and allow you to think more clearly. We appreciate also the government, some of the facilities, resources that government indicate that they wish to make available to some non-Cayman national which we're very grateful for, but we also realize these resources are limited. So we're just as anxious to see persons return home, and whatever way, we liaising with our government in Jamaica to ensure that, as soon as this can be done, that they will give consideration to the nationals here, then that's what we're working on.
Okay. And as you shared, the emergency contact number for the Jamaican consulate here was 547-4826, 547-4826.
That is correct, because we're not able to operate, regular hours. Our staff also have been reduced here, so we are operating on an appointment basis for a number of reasons. It helps also to manage, the safe distancing and, be able to deal with persons more effectively, and also persons can reach us at this number, outside of office hours as well. So, we can sometimes provide information to them outside of the office hours if it's just information that they need, or if it's assistance in some way that we can schedule an appointment to assist, then we will do that.
Okay. Well, Ms. Elaine, please accept our public invite. Anytime you need to call in or have us share anything, we're happy to do so, ma'am. And continue to stay safe, and thank you for your untiring work.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you also for, allowing us to come on and share every time we, send out this request to you. Thank you. God bless.
Amen, ma'am. God blessings to you too. Miss Eileen Harris, a wonderful lady, truly a remarkable asset to any country, and we're glad to know that she's available here. So for those of you who won't, it's 547-4826, the emergency contact number at the Jamaican consulate here. And hopefully we'll all stay safe and work together, as she shared. All right, we're going to pause and take a break. When we come back, when the press briefing starts, we'll go to it. And until then, let's have some open line.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Stress, anxiety, and depression associated with the coronavirus lockdown may be affecting you more than you know. The Minister for Health says the idea that there is a virus, unknown and unseen opponent, reaping havoc all over the world can certainly be overwhelming for many. The Honorable Dwayne Seymour is encouraging everyone at his 6-week mark to take stock and evaluate yourself and your family's mental health. Call 1-800-534-MIND. That's 1-800-534-6463 anytime between Mondays and Fridays 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to speak with someone who can help you, a family member or friend through these dark times. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Even as the U.S. remains under attack from the coronavirus outbreak, a new terror has arrived. Murder hornets, as they call it. The 2-inch-long Asian giant hornets have landed in the U.S. for the first time, spotted on the West Coast. Multiple stings are deadly to humans, and in their slaughter phase, the hornets destroy honeybees, whose bodies they feed to their young. And the European Commission has launched a global effort to fund research on a vaccine and other tools to combat the coronavirus. It is hosting a virtual conference for world leaders and philanthropists in a bid to raise 7.5 billion euros, or 6.6 billion pounds, or $8.3 billion. European leaders have pledged support for the fundraising plan in a joint open letter. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today. it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
International Lighting Aids Plaza North Sound Way is now open for curbside service and delivery Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. In addition to light fixtures, ceiling fans, rugs, sheet sets, and household items, International Lighting now has a selection of masks, alcohol, and gloves for sale. For curbside service and delivery, please call 945-7121, 916-8211, or 916-3553.
Would you like to cancel a work permit that was submitted before or during COVID-19? Are your PR fees due soon and unsure what to do? Want to know the status of a submitted work permit? Email workadministration@gov.ky today. That's worcadministration@gov.ky, or visit www.work.worc.ky today.
Hey, what's up, my people? Jeremy Anderson here. Check this out. Something very special is about to happen for Cayman Islands. The Ebenezer SGA Church is partnering with the Salt Light City Ministries, and they're partnering with the Cayman Academy PTA to bring you all nightly motivational messages. These messages are specifically and we're targeting youth and young adults, millennials. Listen to me, y'all. Myself, Jillian Monet, we got a special word that's going to shift your life and take you to the next level in the midst of this crisis. So we need you to lock in with us and spread the word. May 3rd through 8th at 7:15 Central Standard Time. Lock in with us from your smartphone or from your computer at your home. And then May 9th at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is going to be special, and we got a special word for you that's going to show you how to take your life to the next level. So spread the word and join us May 3rd through 9th right here online, and we're going to go to the next level with you. Let's get it.
For nearly 20 years, Kingsport Center has been the heart of the Cayman fitness and wellness community. In order to ensure the welfare of all, we are temporarily closed until further notified by the Cayman Islands government that it is safe to reopen. During these trying times, we encourage everyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, and soul. We look forward to continuing providing you with world-class service in the very near future. Remain strong and continue to show the world the power of Cayman unity. Kingsport Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Hello, Cayman. I'm Quincy Brown. Anybody else getting mixed up with all these new coronavirus terms? Me too. But guess what? I've watched the press conferences and I've read the press releases and I've seen all the social media posts. Look here, I can help you out. Stay home. Leave Granny alone. Darling child, I mean, we can't be visiting our old people because they're more compromised. We gotta keep them safe. Una got it now? If Una want to stay up to the time with what's going on, there's only one place for the real information, the Cayman Islands government. Visit gov.ky/coronavirus. Now remember, keep washing your hands, keep following the rules, and keep taking care of each other. Saving lives is Caymankind.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And the 2 p.m. daily press briefings, when they start, we will go straight to it. But until then, let's have some open line. You can call and share your thoughts with us, 949-8037, or toll free with the kind compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Again, if you were joining us just earlier, had opportunity to Miss Elaine Harris, the Honorary Vice Consul at the Jamaica Consulate here, reminding us that either you can call the consulate's emergency number 547-4826. That's the Jamaica Consulate's emergency number here on Grand Cayman, 547-4826. If you need any assistance, um, there is an opportunity if you wish to apply for re-entry to Jamaica while the borders in Jamaica are closed. You need to do the application process online, and as Ms. Elaine shared, her and her team are working remotely, but they're always available to help. So just give them a call. If not, you can go online and hopefully get through as best as you can. It is a trying time, but let's continue to do it together. Now it is open line 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. As we shared, it is just a quick reminder that once the press briefing starts, we're going to go straight to it. And we ask you, apologies now if we cut you midstream. But let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, my friend. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very thankful. I'm going to try my best to put a good face forward.
Dwayne, today they open some places and stuff. I think it's a good start. I think this country gonna recover from the economy gonna recover from this corona crisis very quick. We remember Hurricane Ivan. This country quickly recovered from that, and it was worse 1,000 times than what we facing now. And I have trust in the economy, in the name of this country, in tourism. I think quite a few scared people leave the island. 3,000, 4,000 people left or whatever they leave. Does not mean this country depends on those people. Never came and depend on the expat to stay or go. Because after Hurricane Ivan, I think a lot of expats who left the island feel sorry because they leave, because they don't come back. And the country don't allow them, most of them, to come back.
Sorry, make sure I misunderstand you. Sorry. Are you saying the people who leave? I want to ask two things just to make sure I do not misunderstand what you said. The people who leave do not come back. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, because when you leave your job, there is somebody ready to grab that opportunity and take it. So if you not loyal to this country and you leave your job and you went back to your own country, then there is somebody else will grab that job.
I hear that, but I think just to engage in a little dialogue with you, I think people who leave, many of them choose and do come back. And then the second thing you shared, if I understood you, is they leave but the country don't welcome you back. I don't think that's the case. Is that what you shared?
That's what it should happen. If you
what
leave
should
in
happen?
the country in the difficult time, if you really not loyal to this country, you leave this country in the difficult time, I don't think this country should allow you to come back. That's
I
my
hear your
opinion.
perspective. No, fair enough, and I hear your perspective, but think of it this way. Think of the individuals who are not far from Cayman, as well as the individuals that are, several flights and maybe a day's travel, right? They have their families back home. There's nothing here. Back home, they can help their families. Back home, there's a chance that they can, help themselves easier, more cheaply than they can here. Shouldn't they be able to go back and at least not have to starve and punish and have it so difficult as they would if they were in another man's country?
Dwayne, we need to start as expats. I will speak in behalf of them because I don't know. I consider myself, Caymanian. But we, the people who come from other countries and live in Cayman, we need to change this culture. Work in the construction site all week, and then go to Western Union, send the money to a woman. We don't know what she's doing with this money, and then end up we have to be a burden in the government of Cayman Island. We need to start open a bank account and save every dollar in here in Cayman and spend some of it in Cayman. When we leave, we take our money with us, but we need to start save for the bad days. We need to start this mentality, change this mentality.
Okay, but to some of those same individuals, I think two things are very, very evident. One, they seem to have, like many of us, a great difficulty opening up that first bank account, getting that first relationship with the bank. And then two, they have families and commitments back home. They've come here to work, and they have those responsibilities. They're making a significant sacrifice to be away from their families while they're here. They're probably living a very reserved lifestyle in order to ensure that sacrifice, to support the schooling, the housing, the food, the clothing, the shelter of their families back home. So it's a balance.
Dwayne, look, there is a routine of life going on here. People work all week, send the money back home, and end up they have no money when there is a crisis like now. We need to start change this culture of thinking, and we need to start people to think about there is a crisis will happen in any country. If you in your own country or in Cayman, the same thing. You need to put something aside for difficult time. So you can't be a burden in the Cayman Island government, because the Cayman Island government sick of those people who are dependent in the government. This country is not very wealthy country as some people think, or the culture or the mind of them think that the government find the money in the road to give people. Churches collect money and they are not giving no poor people money. Charities collect money. We don't know where is those money going to, and the government can't pay for everybody. Alden McLaughlin is not the father of everybody in this country. Is not the godfather of everybody. Not the cabinet is not the father of everybody to spend money in. This country need look, Dwayne. This country need to start educate people that certain amount of money you can send every month. Like if you can send $100 only every month, not allowed to send every week money. That's how the way people can save money in a bank account in Cayman, and the economy will recover.
But they need to be paid a sufficient amount of money that they can live here and also support their obligations back. But would you then, I want to ask two questions, right? First, if you were going to impose those sort of foreign exchange controls and the like, would that be on everybody across the board? So from the partner in the financial services, whether the legal or accounting, as well as the physician, the teacher, the construction worker, would that be on everybody, on all amounts?
Of course, on everybody. Especially, you can't.
Okay, listen. I had the other question, but I have to come back to you on that maybe tomorrow. We are now going to the press briefing.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our daily coronavirus press briefing. I'm Donna Bush. Thank you for joining us on all of our channels, as well as on Radio Cayman. We go now to Pastor Tom French.
Greetings to everyone. I'm Thomas French. I'm the pastor of the Church of God Chapel, Cotton Tree Bay, and Cayman Brac. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise for all of your blessings, O God, for your loving kindness, for your tender mercies that you pour out upon us each and every day. We're thankful, Lord, that we can call upon you to guide us and protect us and to give us wisdom, especially in times of trouble and stress like we're in these days. We know that we can call upon you, and you said if we call, you would hear and you would answer and you would do great and marvelous things in our midst. We pray today for peace and for unity and for health and for strength in each and every family throughout our communities, Lord, on all three islands. We pray for the parents, for the youth, for the children. We pray for the relationships there. I pray for peace and love to rest and abide in each and every home throughout our nation. We are thankful for and we pray for our government leaders and our healthcare workers, those that are in leadership and those that are on the front lines. Lord, we just ask you to watch over them, protect them as they deal with the issues of this pandemic that we're going through. We look to the future, oh God, but at the same time, as we're looking to the future, Lord, we pray that we'll not just go back to things as usual, but somehow that we would recognize the greater needs in our lives, the things that should be of more importance in our lives, that we would seek a closer relationship with you. And Father, we ask you to bless financially, physically, spiritually, bless in every area, oh God. And for all these things we pray in the mighty name of Jesus, and amen.
And thank you, Pastor French. We now welcome our panelists, His Excellency the Governor, the Honourable Premier, and the Honourable Minister of Health. Also joining us in our studio are the Chief Medical Officer, the Director of HMCI, and our Sign Language Interpreter. We also have members of the media joining us via Zoom, along with Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez from the HSA. He's the Medical Officer of Health. We go first now to Dr. John Lee.
Good afternoon. I have one positive case to report today, who is a contact of a contact. We're still getting cases. Every few days we're getting odd case pop up, and it only goes to show how careful we need to be about keeping your social distance, keeping your hand hygiene going, and wearing masks when you're in public places. As everybody knows in the room, everybody arrived here wearing their mask, and we take it off so that you can hear me, because you probably couldn't if I had it on. That's really vitally important, because if you can imagine, if just one person has COVID-19 in the community, that one case can spring forth and create a firestorm that will just rage across the island, just as COVID-19 has raged across the whole world. So please, as we begin to unlock various parts of the community, keep that distance, keep your hand washing going, and remember your respiratory etiquette and wear the masks in the public places. As well, in addition to that, you have to please take yourself off work, isolate yourself immediately if you have any symptoms. It's very straightforward now to get a test for COVID-19. You can have it done relatively quickly and know the results, so we can know how to manage any situation. So whether you speak to your local doctor, whether you call the flu clinic, or whether you go to the flu clinic, those are the routes you should do, but first of all, isolate yourself before you seek any advice. So apart from that one positive, we have 576 negatives to report today. So a goodly number. We have so far got results on 92% of the population of Little Cayman. So it's great news that there is no COVID-19 that's apparent in Little Cayman. We also have good numbers from Cayman Brac. 400 people have been screened to date, apart from some people who've also been tested for the possibility because they were a contact or they had some symptoms. But 400 screens have been done over the last few days, which is a testament to the hard work from the Faith Hospital. And also, thanks very much to the RCIPS who've been ferrying a lot of the samples in order to get them to the labs quickly. 400 clearly represents around 20% of the population of Cayman Brac, which is around 2,000. So that's, again, a good representative sample. We hope to have those results fairly soon in the next couple of days or so. I also really want to say thank you very much to the lab staff at the Health Services Authority, because all the different parts of the lab staff had had to work exceptionally hard over the weekend, working into the early hours of the morning in order to get those results to help inform the decisions that the government will be making imminently this week about how to manage the sister islands going forward. So the total number of positives we have is 75 people, of whom 31 are symptomatic, 27 are asymptomatic. Only 2 are admitted, and those are at Health City, and as you recall, the 2 people at Health City are being admitted for something else, so they're not symptomatic with COVID-19. 14 have recovered. You'll probably have seen some information that's been circulating on WhatsApp. It relates to a whole lot of information that the government was planning to release shortly. We were in the midst of getting the presentations ready, but as you've seen, and as actually I've said previously, the age range of people that have been suffering is between 14 and 85, with an average of 42.5. 47% are males. The top 10 symptoms in Cayman of people who've had COVID have been cough, going in decreasing frequency. Cough is the most frequent at 73%, then fever, weakness, chills, shortness of breath, diarrhea, headache, pain, sore throat, and nausea and vomiting. A lot of those people have also had abnormal CT or chest x-rays too. 20% of people have had comorbidities, and the top one there has been hypertension at 33%, with neurological and chronic lung disease been the next 2 beneath that, and then a large number of other conditions, including malignancy, Parkinson's, elevated cholesterol, benign prostatic hypertrophy, arthritis, and cardiac conditions, each with 7% of the comorbidities. Thank you, Donna.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Before we go on to our Honorable Premier, I just want to say I couldn't be happier for the news today. Do we have any questions for Dr. Lee? I think April actually does have one question for him. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Lee. Great news about those results, by the way. One of the listeners that's been communicating with us quite frequently asked if you would revisit the concept of herd immunity. She's been reading a lot of things internationally and just wanted to know kind of what your perspective was on that. You know, of course, it's important to save lives today, but then she was concerned about in the long run, we might not develop this immunity. Could you speak to that a little?
Yes. So I mentioned it previously, but essentially herd immunity relates to a given number of population having immunity, whether it be from a vaccination or whether it be through their own exposure to a condition. And it depends, because different conditions have different levels of herd immunity, which we know predisposes to the fact that at a certain level of protection, it is unlikely that there will be any significant outbreak in the community. So it depends on how infectious something is as to how high the herd immunity needs to be. So with a higher degree of infection, you need a greater percentage of the population to have either had vaccination or basically have some protection, whether it be through vaccination or through immediate contact. Because we don't believe we've had a huge outbreak of COVID-19 on the island, and we won't be able to tell that unless we start to look at the IgG levels. Because we haven't had a major outbreak, we will not have developed herd immunity. So we still need to protect ourselves from countries like the United Kingdom and the United States of America, being places where we have a lot of travelers from, because they have quite widespread COVID. So they are still a significant threat to us. I mentioned IgG testing just now. The reason that we're not doing any immunoglobulin testings currently is because the tests are not quite there in order to give us the validity at an individual level. They are being used in some countries. For example, in England, they're doing surveys of the population using IgG, immunoglobulin G, which rises to its maximum level 28 days after the infection. So, but that does give you some level of knowledge of how widespread an infection can be, but they're using it at a public health level, knowing that it can't be used at an individual level because it's not accurate enough to do so.
Thanks, Dr. Lee. And just the other question, I'm not sure this is directly for you. It might be for the panel, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Another very persistent listener has asked about masks and making them mandatory. Her concern is that she is wearing hers, but a lot of people aren't wearing theirs when she goes to the store and other public places, and just wanted us to ask again kind of where we are on that.
I have said previously, and I'll say again, I think everybody should wear a mask when they're in a public enclosed space or a covered space with walls, unless you're sitting quietly at your desk. Or eating, for that matter, actually, because that'll become an issue. In due course, that will become an issue. So.
All right, April, is that it for you?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, for now, thank you.
Okay, Reshma from the Compass does have a question for you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Lee. My first question is, with the results that you provided today, how many of those cases are from Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, or are they all from Grand Cayman?
Yeah, so I don't know the numbers. On Saturday, Sunday, and this morning, I went through and ticked off the names from Little Cayman from the list that I'd got. So I know that there are 192 people who have had results from Little Cayman. I do not have a list of names from Cayman Brac. Clearly, looking through 2,000 names is quite a substantial job. I'm hoping that will be automated at some level, and I believe the Health Service Authority will be able to do it. But I know there's been a lot of pressure to get the results from Little Cayman, which is why we've gone to the effort of trying to provide that in-depth detail. We also know that certainly there are, I've seen a lot of names from Cayman Brac on the report, so because I've worked often in Cayman Brac, I know there are a lot of people there. And I'm hazarding a guess around 150 at least we've probably got reported already, if not more, but I haven't got the exact figure for you. But the samples are at the HSA and are running through the machines, as you know, and the results will come out shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now, you touched on it, information being circulated on WhatsApp. Among those, the information that was circulated was an image showing a breakdown by district of how the COVID-19 cases are being tracked. Can you say how accurate that image is, and if at all, share the numbers of where we are in terms of districts and cases?
I think I'll go back to what I've said previously. This was an image that was an internal educational document for one of the healthcare providers. So it was not intended for the public. I have previously said, and I will continue to say, that because we do not have as widespread COVID as some countries do, in some individual areas the numbers are very small. And in order to protect people's privacy and their anonymity, I don't wish to delve into the district's numbers. I have previously said that it's right across the islands, and it continues to be so.
The release of this information, is the Premier talked about information being leaked to the public on Friday. Are there any steps being taken to find the root cause or who's behind these leaks, and any action as a result of it?
I'm going to leave that for the Premier.
All right. That's it from me for now for Dr. Lee. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Reshma. We're going to go now to Wendy from CNS. Wendy, please go ahead.
Thanks, Donna. It's probably a little bit repetitive now because I'm at the end of the queue. Do we have a fixed date for mandatory mask wearing, just to follow up on April's question?
Not at the minute, Wendy, no.
Okay, and
we
secondly...
can soon say one. I believe if I've asked people to do it, I really feel they ought to do it.
Okay. The map, going back to the map, is there a reason why something like that couldn't be shared with the public once a week? Because there's very little way of identifying anybody from that map. And I think it kind of reflects what we would expect given the population. So I'm not sure that it's harmful to put it out, given transparency at this time is also important.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to what I said before. You saw on the map too, Wendy, that there were some areas with very small numbers, and I've given you my reasons why I don't feel that it's right to do so. And I've had quite strong representation from people who are sufferers on this matter too, and we really have to always bear those people in mind rather than the public interest, because it is important to protect people's identities and not have them stigmatized.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Dr. Lee. We now go to our Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, everyone. We have reached, I think, a major milestone in the announcements today, where we now know that 92% of those tested in Little Cayman are not positive for COVID-19, and the remainder are being run through the system. This effectively means that we will be able, in very short order, to have asked the Commissioner to lift the curfew with respect to Little Cayman, and for the National Hazard Management Executive and Cabinet to consider his proposal to do so, and for Cabinet to then also amend the shelter-in-place provisions under the public health law to create a bespoke set of regulations for Little Cayman, and hopefully in short order for Cayman Brac, which would mean they would operate without the curfews, but with certain protocols, safety protocols prescribed by the Chief Medical Officer with respect to how we conduct ourselves, including the wearing of masks in enclosed public places and the like. This is, I believe, a tremendous milestone. I have to say that for me, and I believe for His Excellency, the Minister, the Chief Medical Officer, the staff who work at HSA, and particularly the laboratory staff led so ably by the Medical Officer of Health. I can never remember that title. And my cabinet and my government. This is really a moment for us to pause and reflect on where we've gotten to and the efforts that it has taken to do so. Also, to thank and to congratulate the people of these islands for their incredible cooperation generally to assist us to get to this point. For me, I have to say, the past 2 months have been the most difficult of my almost 59 years on this earth, and certainly by far the most difficult in the course of my political career, which is now almost 20 years. I am not one who professes very often my faith, and for that I suppose I should be ashamed. But I am generally a very private person about how I feel about things. But I am moved today, really, to thank God for leading us in the way that He has, giving us the judgment, the wisdom to make some of the very difficult decisions that as governor, as minister, as premier, as cabinet, we have had to make. It has not been easy, and we have been hammered regularly about many of the decisions that we've taken, and we've had to really hold on to our faith and our belief in the fact that we were doing the right thing and the right things to get us to this point. I have had, in a way I don't think I've ever had to in my life, hold on to the faith, the source of the faith that my mother, my father, and certainly my two sisters have held near and dear to them their entire lives. The 11th of this month will be 6 months since my dear father passed. And the Crystal Lane song, One Day at a Time, was really the soundtrack to most of his life. It was the last thing he listened to right up until he drew his last breath. And he lived and was inspired by that song, certainly most of the latter part of his life. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking of you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, help me today. Show me the way, one day at a time. Those are the opening words of what is an incredibly inspirational song. And I have to tell you that over the course of the last couple of months, that too has become the soundtrack to my life. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Those two scriptures as well have been a guiding force and a source of immense strength and comfort and inspiration to me as I have gone about working with the various members of the team, His Excellency and the Minister of Health in particular, and my cabinet and caucus. And from them I have drawn incredible strength. So we are not anywhere near the end of what is going to be an immense struggle. But I am satisfied now that we have more than turned the corner. And the milestone of being able to shortly reopen Cayman Braca and Little Cayman are things I think that we must mark and that we must show real thanks for. I want to thank the entire community, but particularly the pastors who every day offer a prayer at the start of the press conference and who pray unceasingly for us and for Cayman's salvation. And for the average person out there, I can't tell you how many messages I get. I'm sure other members of the team do as well. Thank you so much. It does really mean a great deal to all of us. So, enough of my reflections, but I truly felt moved to say that today. The way forward, as I've intimated, it appears that we will have close to, if not completely, negative results for COVID-19 for Little Cayman. I have asked the Honorable Attorney General to start work on making the necessary arrangements to have the curfew, the police commissioner's curfew, subject to he and the governor's agreement, and that of the cabinet, rescinded tomorrow, and for new shelter or new public health regulations to be promulgated for Little Cayman, which would not include any provisions relating to curfew or restrictions on movement of people. Hopefully, in another couple of days, we will be able to do the same for Cayman Brac, assuming that the results come back as increasingly we are encouraged they will. And as I said, that will mean that both of those islands are free from any curfew restrictions or restrictions on movement. But this is also contingent upon both islands keeping their borders closed to regular traffic back and forth between Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac, or Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, or Grand Cayman and Little Cayman. Obviously, there is still the need for essential travel between the islands, and that is still going on. And I say that to say that there is still something of a risk, even with everyone in those islands apparently being free. I'm anticipating Cayman Brac having the same sort of results as Little Cayman, being free of COVID-19. As long as there's human interaction, especially being introduced from outside, there is always a degree of risk. Hence the need for continued caution with how we conduct ourselves with respect to hygiene, with respect to the wearing of masks. And those we hope to provide for in the regulations when they are made. Now, with respect to Grand Cayman, I anticipate that with this announcement, there will be increased pressure from persons in Cayman, some persons in Cayman, to lift the curfew or to reduce the restrictions with respect to movement in Grand Cayman. I want to make clear and underline what Dr. Lee has said. It would be unsafe at this point to do so. We simply do not have enough test results for Grand Cayman for us to behave as though the virus is not still very much among us. We have ramped up testing. I'm not sure I caught quite the number of tests we've actually done, but it is now well over 2,000, but that is still not a significantly high enough number for us to say that we could move Grand Cayman to the situation where Little Cayman will be moved tomorrow. We are therefore going to continue the soft curfew or shelter-in-place provisions and the hard curfew, which were announced on Friday, as planned for the next 2 weeks. This allows some 6,000 plus persons back into circulation in the workforce, and we will carefully monitor the situation. Prayerfully, hopefully, no new cases emerge as a result of that. And over this 2-week period, we are also taking the opportunity to test as many people as we possibly can, targeting particularly demographics, so that we have as broad and as representative a sampling as we possibly can. Assuming we get to the end of this period without any undue incident or any causes for alarm, we can then move to broadening even further the categories of people or businesses that can be allowed to operate, and therefore more people, and to allow, for instance, access to the Home Depots and some of the other buildings. We are working to a plan, but the plan is constantly being informed and adjusted depending on what results tell us. So I'm going to ask again, as I'm sure everyone is tired of hearing from me, ask people in Grand Cayman in particular, for patience as we work through this. The objective is, let me tell you what the objective is. If we look around the rest of the world, especially the areas that are close to us, notably the United States, and to a lesser extent the United Kingdom, although there is significant traffic between us and the United Kingdom. It is clear that we will not be able to open our borders to international traffic, commercial traffic, for quite some time without seriously risking undermining all of the tremendous effort and success that we have achieved in making this place safe to live and to move and to work. And so for a while, it may be as much as 6 months in my thinking, Cayman is going to have to operate as though we are in a bubble. Now, if we are certain, or as certain as one can be in an uncertain world, if we are that the risk of COVID-19 being transmitted within the community is minimal, we can get back to something approaching normalcy in the way we operate. We'll be able to go out, we'll be able to go to work, we'll be able to go to the beach, we'll be able to, hopefully in relatively short order, open back some of the restaurants, particularly those that have do not have enclosed spaces, have outdoor dining areas, so that life can resume some sense of, as I said, some sense of normalcy. But we can only do that if we are satisfied that the risk of the transmission of the virus is limited within the community. Because even if we were to lift the restrictions and people were not certain that they were relatively safe in conducting these activities, in attending certain places, the average person is not going to do so. So that's where we're aiming to get Grand Cayman to this situation where we are now at with Little Cayman, and we believe will be in relation to Cayman Brac. Now, just to make it clear, we're not testing everybody in Cayman Brac. I mean, we're not proposing to test everybody in Grand Cayman either before we actually move to lift some of these restrictions. But we are testing a big enough number and a broad enough demographic that the medical folk can tell us with some confidence that they believe it is safe within the context of other protocols remaining in place, safety code protocols remaining in place, to do so. So that is where we're trying to get to with respect to Grand Cayman as well. I have a few announcements that I've been asked to read. So we moved to this new shelter-in-place regulations today, and there is apparently some clarity required with respect to that, and I've been asked to make the following points. Let me just say, for the benefit of lawyers, a number of who called me, the regulations are structured in a certain way. There are categories of businesses that are deemed as essential, and they are set out in the regulations, some with some degree of particularity. Then there is also a power conferred on the competent authority to deem certain businesses and individuals as essential for the purposes of the regulations. Those that are specifically named in the regulations are exempted entities, and the persons who work for them are essential personnel and are also exempted. Those that are deemed essential by the competent authority are likewise exempted, and the employees for them are exempted. But for practical purposes, in order for the person who is traveling from home to work to be able to do so and to satisfy the police officer who stops them that they are on the road in the legitimate pursuit of an activity, they need to produce some evidence. And so the practical way we have dealt with that and are dealing with it is that the competent authority will give a letter to the employer, to the essential business, saying that you have been deemed an essential service pursuant to the relevant regulation, and that persons who work for you are essential personnel. If they are stopped by the police, they should produce a copy of this letter and a letter from you as employer deeming them essential for your business. So in practical terms, that's how it works. So the employer needs the letter that the essential business has been given by the competent authority, and then the employer needs to write a short note identifying the person in question as essential, and then everything will work fine. It has these past 4 or 5 weeks, and so nothing has changed in practice. It's just that there's an additional 6,000 plus people that are now going to need this kind of identification to be able to move around. So that's my explanation. Let me read what they've told me now. In an effort to streamline the application process for an exemption during the soft curfew, as well as to provide valuable information to the public, the competent authority, which we also call Curfew Time, has launched a new website, www.exploregov.ky/curfew time. During the past 6 weeks, the staff working at Curfew Time have received thousands of requests and queries regarding exemptions under the public health regulations. They have worked 7 days a week for over 16 hours a day on occasion, responding to requests and answering questions from the general public. Since last Friday afternoon, subsequent to my announcing the expanded functions and businesses allowed under the new regulations, over 500 companies have received approval for their employees to be exempt from the soft curfew between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Whilst businesses and functions are deemed essential by the public health regulations, it is necessary for employers to apply to curfew time so the competent authority can exempt the employees from the soft curfew. It's not so much exempting them from it, but providing them with the necessary evidence they have to show that they are exempted. As we progress with this regime, it is expected that the website will include a dashboard to provide updates on the types of exemptions, the number of exemptions granted, and other useful information. Again, I would like to remind you that the new way to apply for an exemption from the competent authority is via the new website, www.exploregov.ky/curfew time. There was a question also asked, I think it was by Wendy, about birth certificates. I have a note on that as well. The Cayman Islands government is aware that members of the public have had difficulties accessing birth, death, and marriage certificates during the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. General Registry, the government department in charge of this area, will resume issuing hard copies of the certificates on Wednesday, 6th of May. The process is as follows. All certificates must be ordered via the registry's online system at www.ciregistry.gov.ky or www.vitals.ky. www.ciregistry.gov.ky or www.vitals.ky. Persons will not be allowed entry into the building to make an application. When ordering the certificates, please select the hold for pickup option. The applicant will be contacted via email or phone when the certificates are ready for collection. Please ensure that you have entered a valid phone number and/or email. Certificates must be paid for online using a debit or credit card. Cash or check payment or on pickup cannot be accommodated at this time. Once contacted, certificates can be collected from the Government Administration Building between the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. To collect your certificates, pull up on the roundabout by the security booth at the Government Administration Building. Please stay in your car and call 244-3101 or 244-3103. Please stay in your car and call 244-3101 or 244-3103. A security officer will deliver your certificate to you at the roundabout. The alphabetical restrictions in force by the shelter-in-place provisions will apply. The public should note that government is currently considering legislation to tweak the registration process for newborn children so that registrations can be legally done via electronic means, but we are not there just yet. I also have a couple more announcements. Well, this is not so much an announcement, but it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the government and the Minister of Education and Chief Education Officer to recognize the excellent work of our educators across the public and private schools and early childhood centers who have brought creativity and innovation to the forefront as they continue to provide the best possible education provision for their students. This week is set aside in the United States as Teacher Appreciation Week, and I wish to join parents, guardians, and our community in Cayman in thanking our teachers, both former and present. Educators, we appreciate you and wish for you many blessings as you continue to provide the remote or distance learning experiences for your students through this pandemic. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week, and God bless you all. And this month, the month of May, is also Child Month. And so today I want to send a big shout out to all of our children throughout the Cayman Islands. As you're aware, May is a significant month in the Cayman Islands as it is the time where the Ministry of Community Affairs and the Department of Children and Family Services shine an even brighter spotlight on our children. It is Child Month. The theme chosen for this year's Child Month is Our Children, Today's Creation, Tomorrow's Masterpiece. But based on the talent and knowledge our children already display, if we are honest with ourselves, they're truly today's masterpiece and tomorrow's leaders. And even though we are in unprecedented times, I couldn't let the month start without giving special acknowledgement to our children and encouraging them to continue to be the best they can be, stay positive, and always reach for their goals. It is times like these where we experience difficulties and obstacles, and our ability to rise above and overcome them that shape who we are and make us more compassionate and stronger human beings. Regrettably, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Department of Children and Family Services will not be able to fulfill their usual plans and activities for this month. I am happy to let you know, however, that the department is still trying to organize some events through the use of technology in order to maintain appropriate physical distancing. Please keep an eye on Facebook or in the media for more details about these events. May God bless and protect our children always. I know I've been a bit lengthy today, but all important messages, and I hope we all find them helpful.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Your Excellency.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I mean, really heartwarming results that Dr. Lee announced earlier, and I do want to thank Angela and everybody at the lab for some incredible work over the weekend, and also Doctors Hospital, who are now helping us as we really ramp up the testing. And like the Premier, it is a real milestone where we are with Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, and that is something to be really welcomed. But again, we do have to underline that even if we're removing some of the restrictions, the social distancing rules, the basic hygiene, the wearing a mask, this is going to remain with all of us for many months to come, because this is the new normal until there is a vaccine. So really important that we continue to to follow that guidance. And secondly, I just want to pick up Reshma's question about the very unfortunate leaks that we've had over the last couple of days. The Premier spoke about the one at the end of last week about the shelter-in-place plan. An investigation is underway into that, but we do not yet know the origin of where that come from. So, but an investigation is underway. And I also want to just express my own alarm and concern about the leak of the information about where some of our positive cases, the districts that they live in. I really would appeal to everybody not to leak information this way. I mean, it makes it very difficult for government to do its business, having to respond to leaks like this, but it also can cause real harm and distress. And I would just ask people to be very, very mindful of the implications and the consequences of leaking information. On evacuation flights, pleased to say that Honduras flight today, I think it's already departed, and we have another one on Friday. Both were full. The flight to San Jose, Costa Rica on Friday the 8th of May, again, there are still some seats on that, but you need to book directly on Cayman Airways, 949-2311. And we're still awaiting confirmation on the flight to Dominican Republic. Hope to be able to say something more on that soon. You probably saw that the Philippines borders closed suddenly at the weekend, which I know will be a concern to many Filipinos here. But we have been advised that this is a temporary measure, and we're still looking at the possibility of flights out of here for Philippine nationals. And I just want to say a big thank you again to Fabian Worms and everybody at Cayman Airways for everything they're doing to help us with these flights. And I have just a few shout-outs today. So first of all, I want to join the Premier in acknowledging our children in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman during this special time of the year. I do think that our children have experienced such tremendous change and disruption in their lives in such a short period of time. We've asked them to stay indoors. We've asked them to stop doing all the things that they enjoy. And their worlds have never been turned upside down like this in the past. So my thanks to all the children out there and the adults in their lives who have been supporting them. I also want to give a shout out to our firefighters. Today is apparently International Firefighters Day. So our firefighters as well out there on the front line doing a really essential job, keeping us all safe. So to the chief firefighter and all his team, a huge thank you from all of us. And then also, I have a special shout out to two members of our prison staff. So Deputy Director Clara Range, who looks after the female estate, and the Custody Manager Richard Barton, both on Friday celebrated their 39th year of continuous service at the prison service. Now, if you step back and think about that, that's quite incredible. And I'm sure everyone across our islands will thank you for your utterly incredible and exceptional service. 40th year already underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Minister of Health.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a long time. Good afternoon, everyone in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and the Caymanian diaspora around the world listening in. As you can see, our press conference start with prayer, and please don't discount the reason why we're spared. Please don't discount it. We pray all the time, as I said, and before each cabinet, where the governor and the premier is in attendance. The premier prays all the time in cabinet, as he said, is very private. But I thank him very much for expressing his faith as a leader of this country publicly. I really, really appreciate that. And I know I've already been receiving messages of how much they appreciate this at this time. People are very stressed, especially with children being at home, eating every 20 minutes. I know. And we thank you again, like the governor said, for your patience. I want to say the leak chart seems to be something great to see. But all of us now as MLAs are getting calls about where the cases are in our district. And it's most unfortunate that we are burdened at this time with more stuff. And this is what leaks does. If it's leaked in a malicious way, information is good, but it's the way that it's used. So there's a nice song by Casey and JoJo. It says, "Tell me it's real." I think a lot of people know that. It's worth a listen. And I say that to say that many smart and astute people have fallen for dangerous lies and spread about the new coronavirus. Why and how can you protect yourself from misinformation? Is my message. It is sad truth that any health crisis will spawn its own pandemic of misinformation. In the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, we saw the spread of dangerous lies about AIDS, from the belief that HIV virus was created by a government laboratory, to the idea that HIV tests were unreliable, and even the spectacular, unfounded theory that it could be treated with goat's milk. These claims increased risky behavior and exacerbated the crisis. Now we are seeing a fresh inundated of fake news, this time around in the coronavirus pandemic, from Facebook to WhatsApp. Frequently shared misinformation include everything from what caused the outbreak to how you can prevent becoming ill. At worst, the ideas themselves are harmful. A recent report from one province in Iran found that more people had died from drinking industrial strength alcohol based on a false claim that it could protect you from COVID-19 and from the virus itself. But even seemingly innocuous ideas could lure you and others to a false sense of security, discouraging you from adhering to government guidelines and eroding trust in health officials and organizations. There's evidence that these ideas are sticking. The Economist in March 2020 found that 13% of Americans believed the COVID-19 crisis was a hoax. For example, while a whopping 49% believed the epidemic might be man-made, and while you might hope that a greater brain power of education would help us to tell fact from fiction, it is easy to find examples of many educated people falling for this false information. Fortunately, psychologists are already studying this phenomenon, and what they find might suggest new ways to protect ourselves from lies and help stem the spread of misinformation and foolish behavior. We are bombarded with information all day, every day, and we therefore often rely on intuition to decide whether something is accurate. Purveyors of fake news can make their messages feel truthy through a few simple tricks, which discourages us from applying our critical thinking skills, such as checking the veracity of its source, as the authors of one paper put it. When thoughts flow smoothly, people nod along. For simple reasons, misinformation will include descriptive language or vivid personal stories. It will also feature just enough familiar facts or figures, such as mentioning the names of recognized medical bodies, to make the lie within it feel convincing, allowing it to theater itself to our previous knowledge. Even the simple repetition of a statement, whether the same text or over multiple messages, can increase the truthiness by increasing feelings of familiarity, which we mistake for factual accuracy. So the more often we see something in our news feed, the more likely we are to think that it's true, even if we are originally already skeptical. These things are important, ladies and gentlemen. We're going through a very tough time. These tricks have long been known by propagandists and peddlers of misinformation, but today's social media may exaggerate our gullible tendencies. Recent evidence shows that many people reflexively share content without even thinking about its accuracy. In one study, about 25% of the participants said the fake news was true, but 35% said they would share anyhow. It suggests people were sharing material that they could have known was false if they had thought about it more directly. Perhaps their brains were engaged in wondering whether a statement would get likes or retweets rather than considering its accuracy. Social media doesn't incentivize the truth. What it incentivizes is engagement. Or perhaps they thought they could shift responsibility onto others to judge. Many people have been sharing false information with a sort of disclaimer at the top. Saying something like, I don't know if it's true, but they may think that if there's any truth to the information, it could be helpful to friends or followers. And if it isn't true, it's harmful. So the impetus is to share it, not realizing that sharing causes harm too. Researchers use a tool called cognitive reflection tests, or CRT, to measure this tendency. To understand how it works, consider the following questions. Emily's father has 3 daughters. The first 2 are named April and May. What is the 3rd daughter's name? Did you answer June? That's the intuitive answer that many people give. But the correct answer, of course, is Emily. To come to that solution, you need to pause and override that initial gut response. For this reason, CRT questions are not so much a test of raw intelligence as a test of someone's tendency to employ their intelligence by thinking things through in a deliberate, analytical fashion rather than going with your initial intuition. The people who don't do this are often called cognitive misers by psychologists, since they may be in possession of substantial mental reserves, but they don't spend them. I just thought that this might help. Yeah, so I think that was very important because there's a lot going on out there. Today's scripture is from Psalm 73. Surely God is good to Israel, to those who are pure in heart. But as for me, my feet had almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold. For I envied the arrogant when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. They have no struggles. Their bodies are healthy and strong. They are free from common human burdens. They are not plagued by human ills. Therefore, pride is their necklace. They clothe themselves with violence. From their callous hearts come iniquity. Their evil imaginations have no limit. They scoff and speak with malice. With arrogance, they threaten oppression. Their mouths lay claim to heaven, and their tongues take possession of the earth. Therefore, their people turn to them and drink up water in abundance. I thank you. This is the word of the Lord. A shout out today to persons who somehow I want to clarify something that went out about rent. And I'm getting a lot of calls, and somehow people may misinterpreted what the government or myself was saying in regards to rent. For the property owners, we asked for your kindness and thoughtfulness, and for the most part, you did that, and we thank you. And for the tenants, we ask that as long as you were employed, that you continue to pay your rent, and by doing this, keeping the pressure off of those who really couldn't pay. Being responsible and not burning AC all day if you're not paying anything, and just running up the electricity bill and so forth. These are irresponsible things, whether you're employed or not. And so you never know when you're going to get your job back. So don't go and be burning up AC and so forth. These tenants still have these bills around to pay. Also, I want to mostly or all of the MLAs in the 19 constituencies picked up their masks and are making or distributing them throughout their constituencies, and I want to thank them for doing that. And at this time, we are strongly suggesting to cover up by using some sort of face covering whilst out in public places, because now we're making a real surgical effort in getting masks to the people of this country. And we will order more or try to make more available as is needed. One of the areas we continue to look at today, as mentioned earlier, is mental health. I encourage you to reach out to your friends and family members. Maybe you know someone who's not working right now, maybe someone who works in tourism, arts, and the culture fields. Some of you may be familiar with the most famous quote by Mahatma Gandhi: the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service to others. So I encourage you to lend a helping hand if you can, and buy a gift card from a restaurant or a grocery store, or maybe buy and have some groceries delivered to them. This will go a long way in lifting their spirits, as well as spread your love and joy in a time where people are stressed and anxious, having to worry about where their next meal is coming from. It doesn't have to be much, but it will help one another. If we help one another, we will ultimately be able to make it through this happier and stronger and more grateful than before. Remember, if you or someone needs support, call the mental health hotline 1-800-534-6463 for free and confidential advice. The helpline is available Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The helpline for mental health was born out of the New York Hazard Management Human Concern Cluster, which is further assisted by private organizations Flow and Digicel. The helpline is staffed by the Cayman Islands Counseling Center, the Employment Assistance Program, the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, Behavioral Health Department, and the Psychological Association of the Cayman Islands. Special shout out to all those organizations, as well as Nurse Dipta Carton, the community psychiatrist nurse. Our last thing to bring to your attention today is the ongoing motivational messages from Millennials and Mentors series of Zoom meetings. These inspirational talks are being put on by the Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church and features international motivational speakers and authors Jeremy Anderson and Jillian Monet. It began on Saturday and will run until this Saturday, May 9th, 7:15 p.m. each day, and on Saturday at 4 p.m. You can join the meeting by using Zoom ID number 598-746-9227. I'll say that again. The Zoom ID number 598-746-9227. Please remember to wear your mask if you're going on essential tasks. If it's not absolutely essential, then please stay home. Cayman. Just to say that we'll make an announcement in a few weeks as to the mandation of masks. I thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Minister of Health. Before we move to the media, we're going to hear from Dr. John Lee once again.
Thank you, Donna. Just a nice bit of good news. Round numbers are always very pleasing to receive. I thought it was very good to share with you the fact that today we have reached 600 tests to report, as 24 negative results have just come through from Doctors Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the first person from the media we're going to go to is Radio Cayman's April Cummings. April?
Okay.
Mute.
Okay, if April, if you could unmute your mic, thank you.
So many buttons to push. This question, I think I would say, is probably for the Premier, and there are kind of two components to it. One of them was a concern from a member of the public about the pension form that requires people to actually have to physically print it out. The concern being expressed that a number of people may not have access to a printer right now, which dovetails to the next question, which came from an IT provider who said they've requested a couple of times for permission to be able to do curbside pickup of computers in order to repair them for customers. And they were saying that the concern here is that some folks, particularly his customers, many of them are elderly, or he has folks who are essential workers who are working from home, or in some cases aren't essential but can be working from home and contribute to the local economy, but they just can't get their machines fixed, and wanted me to raise that issue with you for consideration.
I don't have an answer to the first one. I can check. And I'm not sure I have an answer to the second one either. But now that we've, certainly the principle behind what we're doing now in terms of release of restrictions is that if your business involves delivery, where you don't have to have face-to-face contact with the customer, then we're happy to allow it. So what I would suggest, if the individual is listening, or you can perhaps respond to them if they aren't, ask them to write to, now I got to learn this new address we have, but to write to the competent authority, which is www.exploregov.ky/curfew time, and for designation if they aren't already covered. And I'm certain it'll be granted because, as I say, it fits within what we're trying to do. We're not trying to keep people locked down unnecessarily, or businesses from opening unnecessarily keep business from opening. We're trying to, as I said, to still reduce the risk of person-to-person contact during this 2-week period.
Mr. Premier, I think that Dr. Williams' microphone might be on, so I might have missed part of that. Can I repeat it back to you just to make sure I understood the concept properly?
Sure.
So essentially, the spirit of things is that pickup delivery type services are kind of the way we're operating right now. So it would be good for this party to request that again now that that's the case.
Yes.
She needs to keep talking.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we now go to Reshma from the Cayman Compass.
Thank you, Donna. Premier, I'll start with you first. I know we're in the early stages of the reopening of businesses, but how has it been going? Have you received any reports, any concerns, complaints?
No day goes by I don't get those, but they've been very small in number.
Would you like to share what those are? Or
No, we just had an example, I think, of April. It's those sort of requests, requests for information, people saying they haven't been allowed, or they don't think that they are allowed under the regulations, or all sorts of requests. I do my very best to answer as many as I possibly can. But having dealt with or received requests from 500 companies since Friday, I think they're doing an incredible job, even more incredible job at dealing with it, given the limited number of complaints that I get, and I take a lot of messages in the course of a day.
Okay, thank you. We've gotten a couple of concerns coming in from employees. As you know, with work opening, employees would be worried, like, for example, those who have been working at home and who can perform duties at home are being asked to report out to work when they can still perform those duties at home. Would you still maintain the recommendation that those who can work from home still work from home? What advice can you give to them if they're being forced out to work?
Yes, but I do believe that the employer is going to be the best individual or the manager to determine whether or not the duties can be effectively performed from at home. But we're certainly not encouraging businesses to bring staff back in and to resume operations as though it's business as usual. Indeed, I think for some while hence, we're going to encourage the financial services industry in particular to have as many of their staff work from home as possible until we are satisfied that there is minimal risk. The more people you put together, particularly in closed spaces, the greater the risks. And so we are not by any means out of the woods yet, although I think we can see a clearing.
Okay. This relates to the borders, in particular, allowing travel back into Cayman. We've seen reports circulating of a cruise ship Carnival selling tickets, for cruises to Cayman, and we've gotten requests from tourists who want to come back to Cayman, and questions on what's happening with our borders. Can you address that? Have we had any indication from Carnival that they can start cruises back and flights in August? Because that's what they're saying.
The government is certainly not considering reopening the borders anytime soon. Indeed, there will be a cabinet paper this week which will ask cabinet to agree that all ports remain closed until the 1st of September.
Can I just come in at that point, Reshma, because I've had a couple of queries on that as well since we started. So we have arranged the 2BA air bridge, and it's really good that we've been able to do that. So we are very open to arranging more British Airways air bridges between the UK and Cayman. And as the Premier, I think, quite rightly says, we have no prospect of our border being open anytime soon. So that air bridge is a really important link with the outside world. And I've been contacted today by many people who have children at boarding school in the UK. So that we need to take all these issues into account. So I would just ask everybody to continue to write in to the travel helpline if you need to leave the Cayman Islands for whatever reason, so we've got all that information, because it really depends on demand. If the demand is there, we will organise an air bridge.
Okay, thank you very much, Governor. And I'm kind of glad that you jumped in, because my next question relates to you and those repatriation flights, because we've been getting a number of messages on flights for Jamaica and where the status is with that discussion, as well as for flights to India, because as of today, India has now opened up its borders, has announced that it's opening up its borders starting May 7th. So if there's anything that you can provide to the public that can help them with regards to those discussions, would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, certainly. On India, very aware of that news, which is clearly welcome, and we are in contact with the British High Commission in New Delhi to see what might be the next step on that. And again, on Jamaica, nothing to announce today, but discussions are underway.
Okay, great. My final question for you is on RFA Argus and its visit to Cayman, and then I'm going to hand off to my colleagues. We saw it on the horizon. Can you tell us how the visit went? Are they sticking around? What's the plan for them?
Yes, thanks very much, Reshma. So, yes, you can probably, I've just had some messages as well saying you can now see RFA Argus off 7 Mile Beach, so it's very much out there. So it's the Royal Navy Caribbean Task Force ship now here, as I mentioned on Friday. They're not going to be landing on our islands with their helicopters, and the crew will not be coming ashore as they have in previous years because of COVID-19. So the plan now is that tomorrow they will be flying 2 of their helicopters alongside the RCIPS helicopter on a recce of Grand Cayman. And they're looking for key areas and landing sites in preparation for the upcoming hurricane season. They'll also be conducting a drug interdiction exercise with the RCIPS Marine Unit. And on Tuesday afternoon, they plan to conduct an overflight of Cayman Brac. I might just add that, of course, that we have the security assistance team here, which arrived last week on the BA flight. I've already conducted one virtual briefing with them, and we'll be doing another one tomorrow. But they're spending their time very usefully doing lots of Zoom meetings, meeting people across all different areas via Zoom and virtually so that they can get briefed on the situation. And we'll say more about what they're doing as they get more into that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's my last question. If we have time, I can circle back to me.
Okay. We're going to go now to Wendy from CNS. Wendy, go ahead.
Thanks, Donna. Well, I've got a few less because the Premier answered the one about the cruise ships. A major concern remains the pensions, and I don't want to ask a whole load of questions about pensions. So are we any closer to getting a Department of Labour and Pensions person coming onto the panel?
I'm not sure what the schedule is.
This week. No date set yet, but this week.
Okay.
Okay, so that is happening. All right. I'll save all the questions that I've got for them when it happens. The other thing is really emerging today. Obviously, there was a lot more people out on the road today. I have a feeling from what people are saying to us and the questions that are coming into CNS and comments and all the rest of it, that people are losing patience a little bit. Does the Premier have any concerns that some of the things, I know he said before, it's not about fairness, but that he's losing that goodwill because some of these things are becoming to look a bit odd, like you've got suddenly 1,000 landscapers out today, but people still can't go for a swim. And, there is some people asking, is it not possible to find a way to allow people to get to the sea without that causing so much grief for the police?
No, we can't. And it's a question about risk. I'm not worried about goodwill, neither am I worried about re-election. I am worried about people's lives. That's what we have been fighting to preserve, and we have done it so far. And I'm not going to allow a few disgruntled people, even if it is 1,000 disgruntled people, to derail the plan and kill our people.
Okay, thank you for that. A couple more questions. Oh yes, this similar thing, housekeeping. People have raised the question of now, is it okay for them to play tennis because it's outdoors and some courts are outdoors? The other one was golf, because I think some celebrity was posting on Facebook or something without his clothes on, playing golf on a golf course here. So that's also caused concern. So can people play golf or tennis yet? Straightforward question.
If they're playing tennis on a private court in their own property, yes. But public facilities are not yet open. I would encourage anyone who thinks that this is not going to have disastrous results to just look at the Bermuda Gazette and see what has transpired there since they reopened all of these facilities and the statement by the Minister of Security. We are not in a position yet where we can say that it is safe to gather in groups and for people to interact with persons who are not in their households. That is the underlying reason for everything that we are doing. If we are patient, no one is going to die because they didn't play golf or go for a swim, but they will die in many instances if they contract COVID-19. We need another couple of weeks to be able to make a proper assessment about the risk of opening back up these places. Again, I beg and I appeal for patience, and I ask the media to help us with this.
Okay, final question, which is just a simple housekeeping question for the governor, actually, over the BA flights. Can he confirm that whether or not on future airlift, it will be selling those middle seats so that people can make a judgment for themselves whether they're going to take the risk or not, given the lack of social distancing that was on the last flight?
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. I know this has been a concern expressed by a number of people, and I think in planning the next one, we will absolutely take that into account. But ultimately, it's for BA because it's their policy on what happens on the aircraft. But I know a number of people were concerned about that. I think these are emergency evacuation flights, and individuals have to judge the risks themselves and whether they believe that is what is in their best interests. But we will certainly have a fresh look at all of that for the next one.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions, and then we'll begin to wrap up. The first one is for the Honourable Premier. Actually, Your Excellency, I'll ask you first this question. The breach of confidentiality that took place with the map being released, so on and so forth, can you just clarify whether that case will be investigated to find out where that breach happened?
Yes, I think both those cases have to be investigated. We can't have leaks of information without trying to find out why it happened and ensure it doesn't happen again. So yes, they will be investigated.
We're very concerned. So the question I have for the Honourable Premier, persons who live on the BRAC are messaging like crazy. Are persons who own homes on the BRAC but live on Grand Cayman, just for clarity, have they been allowed to travel over there at all, and will they be able to travel over there at some point?
I think we'll have to proceed with a great deal of caution there. At a minimum, I think they'd have to get tested here, because we certainly can't run the risk of them introducing the virus there unintentionally, which is why the testing here is so important. We haven't actually discussed that in detail with Dr. Lee and his team, but at a minimum, I think that's what will be required, is that we had negative tests before we'd allow people to go there. Otherwise, we start all over again, or we risk starting all over again.
Right, correct. Any final words from the panel?
No, Donna, just thanks very much again to the general public, who are, by and large, very, very cooperative, very, very supportive. I do not exaggerate in saying that I get more than 300 messages a day. And while I still get the complaints about fishing and about the beaches in particular, 90% of the messages are hugely supportive of what government is doing. I think most people understand the seriousness of what is at hand and the huge risks as we get edged closer and closer to what appears to be successfully eliminating the virus in these islands. The risks of mishandling these next few weeks and us being forced to go in to full lockdown for months if the virus was to go rampant. So again, I appeal to people for patience. I know how hard it is. Believe you me, nobody is more unhappy with these restrictions than I am. Believe you me. I love to move around when I have free time. I can't tell you the last time I got to do any work up at my farm, which is killing me. But that's how it is. So just patience, 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 my people, I beg you. Just a little longer.
Not that I want to speak after the premiere, but I just thought I wanted to reiterate and about this goodwill comment, because some people seem to think that they can play politics. When you talk about goodwill, you're talking about politics. And as Premier said, we're not here worried about getting reelected. We're here about saving lives. And when I hope that this little small country of 65 never get to the point of other countries that have made those kinds of decisions in terms of putting goodwill before saving lives and having to bend to political pressures to open our citizens up to being infected. We can only see what has happened in other countries when they opened up in the incorrect way. And some people might be unhappy about certain things that wasn't open, and we apologize. Like I say, we got a plan, and we're trying to take that plan forward. Some people are not privy to all information as to why we did certain things when we did and why certain things wasn't done. But they need to look at countries like Taiwan. If we can look at what Taiwan did, only 460 cases and very few deaths, and their country is right next to China, next door to China. And it's all about mass. Mass is the key. I've been saying it from the start. Mass has to be the key. And that's why this government is as impolitic as it was in reaching out to even opposition members and delivering mass to them also. We saw that as important. This is not a time for politics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister of Health. A reminder before we go online to gov.ky/coronavirus and click on the FAQ section for answers to your questions. Also for guidelines on DVDL renewals and to eServices. You can go online to eServices.ky to do any online business. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's joined us today, you, the listening and viewing public, as well as our panel for making this possible. We invite you again to join us tomorrow. Before we go, or immediately following this press briefing, you can sit back and enjoy the special song requested by our Honorable Premier, One Day at a Time, followed by a look at today's regional and world coronavirus statistics.